The following is a presentation of iRacing.com motorsport simulations on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
Tonight from the South Boston Speedway, LSRTV is happy to say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the final week of the 2017 Championship Esports Association's Cars eSport Tour at LSRTV, your home for sim racing and iRacing Live. We're happy that you're with us tonight from South Boston, Virginia for the 12th and final week on this 2017 campaign. And calling all the action with you topside, as always, myself, Evan Pasoko, joined by James Pike. Chris Murdoch also topside with us this evening with the lovely and talented Cisco Scaraboo downs to wares, twisted and tweaking dials, and bringing us to you this evening. And James, we finally are back at this thing. The Cars eSport Tour has had quite some time off, and in fact, the real-world counterparts of the Cars Tour just wrap things up here from Sobo. So it is our turn to wrap up the season for the 12th and final race of the championship, and one championship battle is out of the picture. But the good news is, when we get the night kicked off with these late model stocks in just a couple of minutes, it is going to go down to the wire for the first of our two Twin 125 lap main events.
Yeah, it's actually a relatively similar situation to what we had on Saturday night in the real world South Boston. We're just swapping out Lane Riggs and Josh Berry for Matt Cucker and Christian Peterson. Cucker's got the lead on Peterson by 7 points going into this race, and though Peterson as of late has been a little bit more successful, especially in the SLMs, Cucker's been the guy in the LMSCs. So I'll be curious to see how this one plays out. I feel like it's going to be a coin flip, especially at a track like this where it's just generally pretty narrow everywhere you go.
It just feels small. It is a racetrack that clocks in with, if you break it down to a fraction, 2/5 of a mile length, 0.4 miles every single time around. So it's going to be 50 miles between the drop of the green and the checkered flag. But that is exactly correct. It had been Matt Cucker's championship. You look back, most recent winner for Myrtle Beach. It also won before that 3 weeks prior. Concord, 5 flags, and Lear, all in succession. His 5 wins on the season are the most. But it has not been overtly dominant, Chris, because Peterson right there in second has 4 wins. In fact, both drivers have 9 top 5s. Both drivers have 9 top 10s and 9 starts counted so far this season. So 7 points is not a lot. And considering the fact that it is the season finale, a little bit of a higher average field than we normally see here today, with about 23, 24 cars scheduled to roll off, this race could very easily end after 125 laps with more than 7 drivers on the racetrack, which means that this thing is not going to be over until the checkered flag flies. Nobody feels comfortable in the top 2.
That is correct, Evan. There's a lot of stuff going on here tonight, and it's weird jumping into this being the finale, but when you told me Matt Cucker and Christian Peterson were up on the points lead, that was no shock to me. I'm going to see them leaving it all out on the line here at Sobo, trying to give it their all, come home with that championship, as well as everybody else in this huge field here tonight wanting to go out on a good note.
We talk about this South Boston Speedway, cars headed trackside. It is going to be a fun host track to tonight's finale. And again, if you maybe haven't been with us all season long, first off, happy that you're with us tonight on LSRTV and iRacing Live. The Myrtle Beach Simulation Series will return in 1 week's time, and they will continue here on Wednesday nights well off into the new year. But in the meantime, between now and then, this is it. And we will talk more, I'm sure, about this championship as the night goes on. Again, 2 125 lap main events. Super late models will close out the night in just a little bit, but as the late models head trackside, we go down trackside as well and take a look at tonight's LSRTV starting grid. Pole position for this one going to belong to the number 3 of Jacob Porter, his 14.728. Get it up for the top of the board with the in for Matt Cucker on the outside of the front row, rolling from second. Jeremy Adams going to make up the inside of row 2. He will start third tonight with John Lyday rolling off at fourth, and Kyle Barnes back on the sim this time around in P5.
P6 is where you'll find Devin Morgan rolling off from this evening. He's joined by Brandon Wilkinson, who starts 7th. James Milbachler will begin tonight from the 8th spot. Scott Eckrich will start from 9th. Connor Blaze will round out your top 10.
Tommy Ryan on that 6 machine, he'll start 11th. 12 goes to Will Dravicki. Jody Green goes 13th. Joshua King going to be starting in that 14th position, and the number 90 of Jeremy Watkins going to be 15th.
And everybody else from this point on, 16th is Scott Naslett with Arrigo, Kyle Young, John Aletta, Robbie Bundit inside of the top 20, final 2 times in queue, Therese Nobles 21st, and Kyle Leveralt in 22nd. A couple of provisionals to round out the field, most notably Christian Peterson way back in 23rd, DJ Beverly in 24th position. So Matt Cucker going to come into tonight with a 7-point advantage in the championship, and he will start this race from P2 with a 21 spot advantage on the racetrack, but the pace car going to dive in this time, and the field is going to be in the hands of the 3 of Jacob Porter. Green flag in the air, and we're racing from Sobo. Final late model stock feature on 2017.
Better jump, though, went to Matt Cucker in the 69. He got out in front of Porter on the outside by about 2 or 3 car lengths. So he'll lead the first lap here. Then it'll be Porter. And then side by side, you've got John Lyday and Jeremy Adams in the 89 machine. And it looks like Devin Morgan and Kyle Barnes right behind.
Drivers working to back down now to 1 and 2. Cucker joined already at 5/10 of a second advantage. The fight is still very much on for third. No separation for the battle between Adams and Lyday and everybody else on the back. You got Morgan and Barnes side by side. You got Mielbachler and Eckrich there right as well. Everybody tightly packed in together. Outside lane, keeping the guys down low honest. And the 89 machine will clear for third that time. Really use that apron, flat part of the racetrack into turn number 4. You can see it down in 1 and 2 as well. Drivers cheating with those left side tires coming off the turn.
Yeah, it's really a wasp nest back here, guys. As you see multiple 2-wide battles right now. Watching Devin Morgan and Kyle Barnes, or not Kyle Barnes, Devin Morgan and Scott Eckrich going at it. First time we've seen Scott Eckrich, or first time I've seen Scott Eckrich back on the track in a while. He's got to watch that low line, though. You saw Connor Blaze in that 56 machine get way under that yellow line. You'll see a lot of drivers try to do that, maybe get an extra advantage on everybody in this race, because there's not a lot of room to go here.
And you can definitely tell, not only is it tightly packed in that middle of the racetrack just by common standards, but again, walls are very close here at South Boston, especially on the straights. It gets really tight for the guys cheating that yellow line off the corner as the backstretch pit road wall and then the front stretch pit road wall jumps out of nowhere. The race leader still nothing too exciting, 7/10 of a second, as Matt Cucker's actually picked up a little bit of time, and John Lyday, I think, could give him the battle, almost got it on Scott Eckrich. 20 had to check up a little bit off the turn, and brings that 70 on the inside right back into this thing. Pretty even, I'd say, top and bottom so far.
Especially right there towards the back half of the top 10. That's where the best action is on track at the moment. Most people have fallen in single file, but you've got Eckrich, you've got Lyday, you've got the 56 of Connor Blaze right there, and it looks like they just finally settled things out between Tommy Ryan, Brandon Wilkinson, and Devin Morgan. So back up here, I think, to Blaze. And the 6th spot is Lyday, I think, caught the wall a little bit, and then he caught the number 1 of James Milbachler, too, and Milbachler almost lost the rear end of that car. Now he's going to have to hold off Devin Morgan and the 26 of Brandon Wilkinson, and then they make contact, and Morgan goes in the wall. We have a caution.
Yellow flag is going to fly. I thought that 12 might have not brought out a yellow because he ended up right on that back pit road exit, if you will, to get back off of the racetrack into the pits. Thought maybe we would have been able to sneak away with that one. Not going to be the case. And Morgan, kind of an innocent victim in all of this, was behind much of the excitement that was going on between the driver of the number 20 Lyday and the one of Milbachler. And it is that 12, though, who gets turned around. And I guess, interestingly enough, the accident doesn't even come from that hot bit of action, Chris. We spent all that time I'm talking about, but a early yellow here from South Boston slows things down. And obviously the notable change up front was that Cucker was able to use the outside of the racetrack and the green flag to take the race lead. So Porter, your pole sitter, ran second for all of those 11 laps on the opening stint.
Yeah, Evan, that caution was something that I didn't think I expected to see a lot earlier here. You know, it looked like Wilkinson just struggled to keep it on the bottom and washed it up into the 12 of Morgan, and that's something you'll see a lot because this track is so small with these cars. It's hard to get on the brakes and keep the cars down there, and you'll see drivers trying to push it the limits, and that's exactly what we saw. Wilkinson trying to get everything he could out of the car, and unfortunately he caught up the 12 in that mess as well.
The early pace it here at Sobo. One big thing that we noted on the grid was that the championship two were well off and far apart. Again, they're not the only two in this thing. You got the likes of Jeremy Adams third in the championship. He is safe, though, to Scott Naslett fourth, and there might be a little bit of a battle with Barnes right there in P5 between fourth and fifth spot. But Adams, you're talking about a 54-point deficit up to the top two. So it may be a win, it may be a P2, but for Cucker and Peterson, they are essentially footed amongst themselves, literally speaking tonight, often over the course of this season, though it has seemed figuratively like it has just been those two up front again, combined for 9 wins in 9 starts on the points races so far to this point. Pace car going to drop back down and in, though, just an update. Peterson, he's been able to pick up 7 spots. He runs in 16th position. Matt Cucker, who has that 7-point championship lead, is going to be in control this time. Green flag in the air. 69 with the ability to go a little bit sooner off of a caution flag restart. Already clear by the time we get to 1 and 2. And a fight will be for second. Let's see if Adams can challenge Porter.
Adams was down below the yellow line in 1 and 2 and does the same thing here in 3 and 4, almost down, almost like he's headed into pit road. He's so deep down on that apron there. Still alongside the 3 and Porter, though. Porter, though, will get the jump on the outside and should be able to clear him, and then he overdrove the corner. So that will bring Adams right back alongside. That'll just keep everything stacked up between him and Porter and Kyle Barnes and the 2016 Full Throttle Cup Series champion Scott Eckrich with the yellow flag somewhere back in the field.
It looks like maybe issues with the 12 of Morgan, who was just involved in the earlier accident, and it will be. So second time on the night. The driver who started up inside of the top 10 has had some issues. The obvious involvement in the earlier yellow dropped him all the way back to 21st position. The car really didn't look damaged at all, Chris, but he was really struggling with the handle on that car and just got loose in front of the nine machine. To be honest, I'm not sure there was much Reese Nobles would have been able to do there. And Morgan ends up going around second time this evening. Early on, talk about a rough opening 15 laps.
Yeah, not too far in this race at all here, guys. What a really bad week or a night for Morgan, I should say. You know, started 6th on that high and taken down to an incredible low, now down to 23rd position. That just goes to show how fast South Boston can eat you up in a heartbeat.
Just as we started to get a couple of laps under our belt there right before that yellow jumped back out, we did start to see that 89 of Adams move back up. That yellow line gets nice and thick as you come off of the corners to kind of warn you, hey, pit road wall is coming up. And I bet you because for those first 2 laps, Spike, you pointed it out, he had basically all 4 tires down there. I'm willing to bet the sim was telling him, hey, pit road speed is 35 miles an hour, and so he was that close to the pit lane entry. I'm sure he was getting that notification. Obviously, just trying to kind of dime in that corner a little bit to counteract the big runs you get up on the outside of the racetrack. He's going to have another opportunity to go at it. He was side by side with Porter. The 3's nose was in front, though, at the Tommy Yellow, so there's not going to be any changes through the top 6. It's still going to be Cucker, Porter, row 1, Adams, Barnes, 2, and Eckrich and Blaze auto row 3. Tip of the cap to Connor Blaze, who's had a good opening couple of laps, plus 4 already after starting in 10th.
Been able to keep it up there in the top 10 and keep it clean for the most part. Not really much damage that I can see on that number 56 machine. So good run for him. Also, if you're wondering, Christian Peterson started 23rd in that 23 car, up to 13th already.
Quick yellows here from Sobo. Pace car going to go down and in. We'll see if the 69 to mixes it up this time. Waited a little bit longer, and it's actually going to be good news for Porter. Cucker does clear for the race lead, but there is not going to be much of a contest to the inside, at least for second. Barnes doesn't want to give up on this, so looking at the outside of the racetrack, the double O, trying to make something work nose to nose at the line. Small advantage to the bottom.
Yeah, and look at Barnes trying to power by Porter on the outside. He almost gets clear, but not going to quite be clear going into turns 3 and 4. Barnes on a mission. Will get clear Porter this time, but look at Jeremy Adams there on the outside. Going to put his nose in there right up above. So maybe as this night's going on is a little bit loose from Jeremy Adams. Right as I was about to say, maybe the high line is the way to go right now.
The Double O certainly made a convincing case up there on that opening lap off for the restart and has since been able to take over third, so Porter's woes continue after starting tonight from pole position. Now he's under attack by Jeremy Adams, who also wants to go up to the outside of the racetrack. The 80 machine going to get a big run this time, but at turn 4, not going to be enough to clear. The 3 drives it in hard down to the inside, cannot make it stick, and now back 4 spots for the 3 as Adams now jumping up to a race high P3.
And you look at all the drivers that are up here in the front of this field. Cucker, Barnes, Adams, you're seeing it now with Eckrich too. They're all running that central groove, especially in the corner. So he makes a little bit of contact there with Porter. Not too much to make much of anything, but big move though here from Connor Blaze down the inside. Porter, I think, tried to cross him up in front of him, and he was just having none of it. So Blaze goes down to the bottom, tries to make it stick, and I wonder if that makes Porter a little bit faster. Not only he gets in the lane, but he gets in the wall too. I think he might have been shoved up there by Blaze. So bouncing and banging off of each other already, and Porter gives a little shove into the side of James Milbachler. So a little bit of ping pong up here at the front of the field. Adams, though, still in front of this group, but Eckrich now coming to his inside.
I have a sneaking suspicion that the 3 is not a fan of how that went down and really wants to get back up to Connor Blaze, but at least for the moment, Milbachler is not going to let him get away as the fight for third continues, and even up there, a little bit more contact as well, as Eckrich down on the inside of the racetrack, pushed up a little bit, crowded the 80 dot off of the corner that time as well, very tight to turn 4. Looks like the cars on the inside, at least intentionally, or just by nature of this racetrack, not wanting to give any extra real estate to the car's top side, and he is pushing that 80 dot machine all the way up to the fence, not giving it much more than a couple of inches on the outside of the racetrack there every single time around. Looking like he's trying to slide up and clear him off of the corner, and that time he'll do it.
It took him a while to do it though, Evan, and that may cost him time to catch Kyle Barnes, but now you look Connor Blaze going on the inside, wasting little time getting on the inside line of Adams. Adams is able to stick up there for so long because you're basically just pinching that run off the corner. Normally the car on the inside will have to get off the gas so they don't run the car on the outside into the wall, so you really have to time that entry perfectly. Meanwhile, back here, Jacob Porter and Milbacher have been going side by side for the past 4 laps. Porter cannot seem to get around that one of James Milbacher, Evan.
Milbachler wants to continue that fight, but a battle for the race lead is on. Here comes Kyle Barnes in the Double O. Made a convincing charge topside to get the P2 off for the restart. This time trying to show that he is the jack of all trades. It goes down to the inside of the racetrack. And Cucker, at least for the moment, doing a good job of defending way up the hill, though. No longer really running that middle line. He gets much closer to the outside wall center of the quarter. It almost cuts down a little bit off, but I think Barnes, recognizing that, gets cleared, goes up to follow the 69. That will open up the door for Eckrich, though. We'll see if the 70 machine can do something, but it looks like drivers starting to migrate top side of the racetrack, although the 70 doing a good job, might be able to get around Barnes and take advantage of the Double O moving up and trying to get single file and get a spot for P2, and he is about clear that time at the line. Barnes going to throw it in and try to make it a battle, but the 70 machine is more or less got the spot.
This to me feels like a question of just how much do you want to burn off your tires at this point in the race. I imagine that Eckrich can do it as you see him race for the lead with Cucker here and get to the front, but once you do that, how much of those 4 Hoosier tires have you burnt off the bottom of your late model car, and how much will you have left at the end of this race when you really need that grip? Is it worth it to go make a run like this, or do you just have that much speed? Nobody has really been able to jump away as Eckrich now goes to the point, and Cucker continues to run high. I think he actually washed up a little bit higher than he would have liked to, because here comes Connor Blaze looking underneath the 69 machine. But tire wear over the course of a race, as we have one car spinning in the back, collecting a lot of people. Jeremy Adams, I think, is the guilty party who went around on it. I couldn't quite tell who else got caught up in it, but the yellow flag is out once again.
I caught Tommy Ryan, but it was Adams, the first driver in the 89 machine, who was running in P6. This was the battle that we kind of stepped aside from to monitor the battle for the race lead, and kind of difficult to tell on this one, Chris, because we noted a couple of times the guys at the bottom really were pushing up off of the turn, and it's kind of tough to tell if that's really what happened in this case, just because Milbacher wasn't all that far up against the fence, but it looked like maybe he was a little bit loose off the corner of the back and rotated a tad bit, and with that 89 machine obviously want to try to stay as low as he can and basically just running on each other's door. The slightest bit of contact between those two, and then the 89 machine evidently looped it down in 1 and 2, and he was okay. He did not get hit by anybody else. It was the cars trying to avoid each other that created a pileup in 2.
Yeah, just looking at the contact, the initial contact anyway, between Milbacher and Adams, it just seemed like the slightest twitch from Milbacher to send him up the track, just the tiniest bit, like you mentioned, Evan, and the smallest bit of contact sent them for a wild ride going down in turns 1 and 2, and you see all the drivers moving around, and the 26 of Wilkinson, the 81, the 33, everybody trying to sneak up high, trying to get all the way out around Jeremy Adams.
That would happen right in the middle of the pack. Somebody else who was able to avoid that one is Christian Peterson. Again, has a knack for doing this from time to time, both here with the Cars eSport Tour and then also on the alternating weeks with the Myrtle Beach Simulation Series, coming from the back to the front. Obviously a lot larger fields and I think higher competitive level just top to bottom in general, but again is working on catching up to Matt Cucker, and he can come from all the way in the back 23rd, win this race. If Matt Cucker stays P2, he's not going to get the championship again. Cucker, aside from bonus points, which are going to be a factor, no doubt, just to make the math simple, you got to be looking at least about 7 positions in front of the 69. Peterson's doing a good job. He's halfway there up to P12 at the moment, still not clear of all the chaos that tends to take place in the middle of the pack, but we will see if he's going to be able to do anything with that as the lights go back on top of the pace cars. So one more time around before we do see the 70 and 69 get back going.
And it was very, very close for Christian Peterson. He just ducked down to the apron right before the exit of turn 2 to avoid the spinning 6 car of Tommy Ryan. So I think that's one of those golden horseshoe type cases, and you wonder how many of those will not only he have, but everybody else in the rest of this field have, because this is a big field by Cars Tour standards, and a big field, I think, by South Boston standards too. You don't usually see a race with 24 late models on the track here, so you've got to watch yourself, because there's not a lot of breathing room on the pavement to begin with, but when you add that many cars to it, it just makes the challenge that much more difficult.
You can definitely see it on that static shot down the back straightaway we were pacing the last time by. Not a lot of space on the straights. You do get that little bit of leeway in the corners where the wall drops off and the apron is available, but definitely not a place abundant of extra space. Green flag gonna fly once more, though, almost halfway home in tonight's late model stock mid event lap 49 of 125. Now it works. Anchorage off and away for the race lead, and we have a challenge for P2. Here comes Connor Blaze from P10 challenging for the runner-up spot. Defending up top is a 69 of Cucker.
First time we've had somebody control a restart that's not that 69 machine here this night here. Evan and Eckrich is trying to run away with it as Blaze and Cucker still battle for that second place position just behind him. Cucker not wanting to give an inch, he's wanting to stay in. Meanwhile, Kyle Barnes lurking in the distance, waiting for one of them to make a mistake so he can pounce, but side by side for the 56 and the 69 as they go through the corners.
And there's no real way to predict who's going to be able to get the upper hand in this. We've seen drivers be able to power off of the outside of the racetrack, get the job done. We've also seen drivers be able to get clear, center off of the corner on the bottom, kind of slot up and take that spot away. But so far, neck in neck again, the longer you fight, the more wear you put on the tires. But also, the further you are going to let Scott Eckrich get away, 2/10 that time by in favor of the number 70 machine. So whoever ends up winning this battle for P2 is going to have a lot of work on their hands as they stay basically dead even, and the same thing going on behind them in a fight for 4th and 5th, with Barnes just barely trying to edge out Wilkinson. Might be able to clear him this time, but at turn number 2, and he will get clear. Not sure if they get a single file out quite yet. The 26 is going to keep going low. The 00 wants that top lane, but a lot of side by side in the top 5.
I think the interesting thing to me is that the two guys that we'd seen race up front to this point in Barnes and Cucker had been running the middle of the racetrack for the most part, and Eckrich and Blaze both had to drive their way up from the middle of the top 10 and back half of the top 10 to get up here. And as I look at this, it seems like their cars are almost a little bit more tuned into the bottom, but we'll have another yellow flag to break the racing up.
And it looks like the 42 machine was the first driver to go around. That was DJ Beverly. And second time, it is many yellows. The contact comes from turn number 4. Looked like the 30 machine on the inside of the racetrack of Will Javicki just pushed up that little bit. And this was very quickly off for the restart. So once those two cars got sideways, there was a lot of drivers behind him. Thankfully, I think the only person to get a piece of that may have been the 89 machine of Adams, who just gave the 42 some help going all the way around. Could have been a lot bigger. You did see the one driver snap back up the hill, and I think it was the 35, who was the Joshua King entry, who did get a fair bit of damage. Everybody else okay, but ironically enough for King, who at the time was running 18th, I think he ends up with the worst of this because he's got a lot of engine damage and has limped it back to the pit lane. That could be it for him tonight.
And that's sort of the price you pay trying to pinch off the corner and keep that run on the high side. Evan, you see DJ Beverly come down on Will and just try everything he can to stay down and pinch off the run to get the run off. And it's almost like what we've seen between Adams and the last caution, just trying to keep that car on the bottom, and just a little bit of emotion by the 30 going to send them all around. And unfortunately, Adams was also caught up in this one as well.
And again, the championship is on the line tonight in both these late model stocks and the super late models every single week. $20 going to the race winner for the payouts, 15 for second, 10 for third, so on and so forth. But also the championship payouts. So if Matt Cucker up front is able to maybe win this race and get the championship, or if Christian Peterson is able to pull off that combo, you're talking about walking away with over $220 tonight alone, with that championship payout being $200. And again, there is no slouch for P2 with a championship, but there's still a $125 prize, both divisions totaling over a $1,000 purse on the line tonight. So we're giving it over $2,000 tonight by the time this evening is done between both races. But definitely you want that extra $75 in the back pocket, and Peterson is continuing to creep in. I'm not sure if we're going to turn the Jaws music on quite yet, but he has made his way up to 8th.
A very solid, steady climb, and a nice job of picking his way through this field, I think, more than anything else. A lot of patience we've seen so far from the number 23 machine, and who knows, maybe by the end of this, he might be taking a little bit of that money home with him, too.
And across the halfway point in about 2-3 laps from now as we continue to work into the evening from South Boston Speedway. We'll see if the 70 machine of Anchorage chooses the inside of the racetrack. Can get off and get going again. He will, but it is not going to be nearly as good as the last time. He had worked to a 1-second advantage as the battle for P2 behind him had carried on, but now no battle for second. The 56 of Blaze is there and tracing through turn 4.
Trying to get everything he can on the back straightaway. Blaze gonna drive it down in there. Meanwhile, just behind them, Wilkinson and Barnes still doing battle from what they were doing on the last caution, but nothing wanting to give. Everybody trying to get past or around Matt Cucker. Cucker trying to run the middle line. Everybody trying to fight for position, but meanwhile, Eckrich kind of pulling away from Connor Blaze. We'll have to see if Blaze can step up the pressure and catch that 70 machine.
The battle between Blaze Cucker non-existent this time around. The fight for fourth on the back is very much alive, and Wilkinson actually ended up with the upper hand in this one. It basically lost the fight with Barnes on that last run, but he is in front and clear for P4 as Barnes kind of has to deal with the 81 of John Ouellette on the bottom. 81 wants to get 2 in one swing of the bat. That was tight as the 26 machine didn't necessarily give him a car's length of space down on the bottom of the racetrack, and more contact at a 2 between the double M and the 81.
And that time, I think Barnes got the worst of it because Barnes looked like he got into the wall a little bit there. So we'll see if there's any sort of toe damage or anything major on that 00 machine. Nothing yet at the moment as Ouellette was dirt tracking it through the corner there.
All kinds of out of shape. Kyle Barnes did a fantastic job of rolling out of that throttle to not get into it, but now he's going to go to the inside and try to get by on the 81 machine, not doing his tires any favor, thinking maybe Barnes would have an upper hand, but Ouellette kind of boxed in because the driver who just happens to be there waiting in the wings to take advantage of all of those misfortunes and all the excitement for P4, 5, and 6 is Christian Peterson inside of the top 5, plus 18, and he's got issues way up and out of the groove, and Peterson into the wall wrecking in front of him.
Wow, that was a interesting turn of events, to say the least. Evan, just when Peterson looked his strongest, getting around, getting that 2-for-1 deal with Ouellette and Barnes, he just completely loses it going into the corner, snags the wall coming out, and there was just nowhere for Porter or Naslund to go. They had to squeeze down there. Unfortunately, Porter went just a little bit too far down to avoid Peterson, clipped Naslund hard into the outside wall, and more drivers piling in.
And I've got no clue how that car got upset. It just started to break loose, looked like an orbital entry, didn't look like he drove it in too hard at all. It was a fantastic save in the first place. He did hit the wall once, and then as the 3 tried to avoid him, hooked the 33, he did get some more damage, but I would say, all things considered, pretty lucky, because somehow he did not go into that spinning 33 up the hill, and Christian Peterson is going to at least still have a race car in a P7, his championship hopes. We're not done any sort of a favor there, though.
Will definitely hurt the handling of the number 23 for the rest of the night. I'd almost say that started just off of, I guess he probably tried to get to the throttle a little bit too early, and that's what started the process of sending that 23 around in the middle of 1 and 2. But you know, it could be throttle, it could be brake. It differs, especially on the short tracks. It's a lot harder to tell which one of the two is the culprit. But I think the main point to take away from here is what you just said. Once he cleared the 33 of Scott Naslund, he did get into that wall in turn 3 a little bit, and he's got a little bit of left front damage, but the right front damage, I think, was more significant. That, I think, is what we'll want to watch from that 23 throughout the rest of the race. All this being said, though, he's still in 6th.
He's not in a bad spot. He was 7th. Somebody else has dropped off to the pit lane. I believe it might have been the double of Barnes, who was scored at front. Yeah, Barnes was scored at a P5 and has come down to the pit lane. So that is going to give Peterson 1 extra spot. It'll put him on the outside of number 3. Again, having to beat, if you put bonus points aside, the objective first and foremost before you start getting into that really technical math stuff that I'm not a big fan of, is you got to be about 7 spots in front of Matt Cucker on the racetrack. And right now, Cucker started the night off with a 22-spot advantage. It has worked its way down to a 4-position difference. In fact, 3 now, as Peterson picked up that extra spot. Still a long way to go, but we are past the halfway point, and in fact, this time by 51 laps going to be left to go from South Boston Speedway. We'll see what happens in this exchange. Can we see a battle for the race lead? Does Blaze have something for Scott Eckridge? As we go green back down to 1 and 2, 70 clear again.
Cucker knows that it's go time. He has to stay at least in front. He knows the points lead is shrinking, and he doesn't want to let Peterson get in front of him, because that's just going to snowball into more positions lost. He's got to manage how close Peterson gets to him and how many cars he lets by him. So you're going to see Cucker driving a whole lot more aggressive, as you see just behind him, Ouellette and Wilkinson almost making contact in front of Peterson. Meanwhile, up front, no contest for Scott Eckridge.
17 cars scored on the lead lap at a moment. I think this might have been one of the more spread out restarts in regards to the top 5 at least. Now we're going to see a battle for P5. Ouellette sideways. I don't know if he made contact with Peterson or what, but it was a big last second wiggle off of turn 4 for the 81 machine. He will maintain P6 and not fall back into the clutches of the likes of, how about Kyle Young from 18th position, trying to get around John Lade, who has not had a fun night after starting P4. It's not all bad when you're running top 10, but he has only gone backwards to this point. Even that 1 mission of James Bielmackler trying to get back into a competitive state, stuck behind the side-by-side.
Meanwhile, just cleared Christian Peterson for a spot, so there's one to watch in terms of the championship battle between him and Cucker, who currently sits behind Connor Blaze for the 2nd position to the tune of about a car length and a half, maybe 2, and then Eckridge is out in front of Blaze by about maybe 4 or 5, now stretch it to 6, but the top 5 look pretty well settled. It's definitely Young and Lide that are having the best battle up towards the front of this field at the moment.
And that 93 machine of Young on the outside of the racetrack again. I think the 1 machine is trying to give him some positive reinforcement. He's hit him in the back bumper about 4 to 5 times every single time around the racetrack. The 93, the 1, and the 20, and that battle is going to continue. It's about 3.5 seconds off of the number 1 position, which is held by Eckridge to a 0.6 of a second advantage. All those intervals going across the top of your screen, lap in and lap out, but I think that Milbacher getting more impatient as the laps go on.
Yeah, you said it. maybe not encouragement is the word I would use, Evan. Maybe it's a move or move over, and that's exactly what the 93 of Kyle Young did. He moved and got on the inside. Now Milbacher is going to have a chance and does get past the 20 of John Lyday, so we'll see how long he waits behind that 93 machine. So and he doesn't wait too long. You see him dive it way down on the inside there on Kyle Young, trying to get by him, but Young not wanting to give it up just yet.
Obviously going to stay committed to things as they go at the moment. Single file train. Look at the 89 machine back here up into the outside wall as Adams trying to make a step to the outside on the 20 Alane. That one did not work. The 00 machine to Kyle Barnes on the inside of the racetrack all in this. And again, what you're looking at now, this battle towards the tail end of the top 10, the most exciting stuff on track at the moment as we work lap number 87 of the 17 car. Still scored on the lead lap. Still getting physical. Nobody is shy. Getting the bumper and bang it into this thing. It's their last opportunity to do so all season, and the 20 is the next driver to get at it, really trying to move Young out of the way because he wants to go topside.
Milbacher's gone. He's, I think, quite thankful to be seeing all this in his rear view mirror as opposed to his front, because he's starting to gap these guys. So now it's on Lyday to get around Kyle Young. But Lyday, I think, either overdrove the corner or got a little bit of help, because now Kyle Barnes is to his inside on the back straightaway, and they make contact as you do at a short track like South Boston. And I think they made a little bit more contact, and Kyle Barnes clears John Lyday. So move Kyle Barnes up to P9.
And a double machine wants another one, and it's going to be one too many. Around goes Kyle Young, and caution at lap number 90.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to back that one up, get on the replay. Just a lot of hard racing going back throughout the top 10, and Barnes trying to get just a little bit too much out of the car there, and he immediately came over the radio and said, "That's me, that's on me." So definitely knows he made the mistake, backs it up into the inside wall, does Young, and gets it back going once again. So this is exactly what Christian Peterson needs, because he was starting to fall off just a little bit back into the clutches of James Milbacher.
But another yellow flag late in this race will tee us up with a restart right about 30 laps to go. And the championship picture is kind of fallen into a stalemate. The battles in this race are still exciting inside of the top 10, no doubt, but Peterson was only able to maintain that last time. Restarted in P6, runs into P6, nothing really exciting for Matt Cucker, the driver who has the most wins out of anybody in these late model stocks this season with 5 in comparison to Christian Peterson's 4. I don't think he's got something right now for Eckrich and Blaze. I think that 70 machine is pretty dialed in at the moment, and it's almost a matter of formality, but these yellows and late race restarts can always present opportunities off for restarts when you never know what's going to happen for things to get a little bit out of hand and crazy still.
And I think we also need to take note of the fact that Eckrich and Blaze are not necessarily here for any sort of championship points. They're here to get the race win and get the bounties, because they haven't been regulars in the Cars eSport Tour during the 2017 season. So they're here for the trophy, they're here for the money. And right now, it's working out pretty well for them, because nobody's been able to beat Vince Ciro 6-man this season. And here we are, last race of the year. What kind of story do we end up with if one of these two takes that extra money away for the likes of Cucker and Peterson and company?
Just taking a look at some of the names out of this race. Nobody from the top 10, at least, have retired, but the likes of, Jacob Porter has had a rough night. He's fallen way down. Kyle Barnes as well, involved in an accident, had a car go off of his nose, things like that will do it to you. But the big movers in this with Christian Peterson, 23rd to 6th. John Ouellette, I want to see if that 81's got anything left in him. Started in 19th position, runs in P5 at the moment. We'll find out if this is going to be maybe the final restart on the night with 95 laps complete. There it is, 30 laps to go from Sobo. Clear for the race lead again, side by side for P2.
Tucker trying to do everything he can to get by the 56 of Connor Blaze. Blaze has been on a very, very impressive run here tonight, guys, and he's not going to look there. Clears the Cucker on the outside and has a soft caution out
Quick yellow back in the pack for the number 23 machine, and Christian Peterson, that might be it for the driver who was trying to get into this thing. Still had quite the hill to climb, but again, I don't really think the damage was a part of this one. Was just trying, I think, a little bit too hard, trying to pull the Chase Elliott line, make it 3 wide. It did not work in the 26 to the 81. Both, as it had been all night long, James, really squeezing 2 cars tight out of the corner to begin with. You stick an extra nose into that mix, and it is not a good combination, and both of those cars ended up at a fence, but Peterson gets the worst, and if you thought that minor damage wasn't going to be enough to put the final nail in his coffin, that is it on his hopes for a late model stock championship.
That 23 car is currently sitting on pit road at the moment, so yes, you're right, Evan, that'll be it. And this should be Matt Cucker so long as he brings it home and nothing crazy happens. Also, I think we'd be remiss not to talk about the save that John Ouellette made. It's about the 7th or 8th time that he's been able to power slide through a corner and keep that car going in the right direction tonight. So on one level, I'm not totally surprised because he's got more experience doing that than anybody else in the field at South Boston, at least within the context of this race. But Peterson ends up with a lot of damage. Didn't really see that much damage from Brandon Wilkinson either. So obviously a lot of damage to the left front of that car, but I have a feeling he could be a fun one to watch here in these closing 26 laps.
Well, the championship is determined essentially in this one. Looks like Peterson's going to come home at about 18th position. Again, still the positive to consider is when the super late models come out a little bit later on, he has that one mathematically locked up, but it'll be a 31-point advantage over Cucker. So as they run now, and as it looks like this one will round out, the most winningest driver on the season is going to take home the respective championships and the nice $200 check in accordance with that. But we still have a checkered flag to give away on the evening, and it has not been a season of diverse winners in these late model stocks, Chris. Aside from the likes of obviously Cucker and Peterson, who we've been talking about, the only other 2 drivers to win races, Jeremy Adams and Kyle Barnes. They have both been fast tonight, but they are not in the immediate picture. Adams the highest of those 2 in P6, so the top 5 looking for a first win on the year.
And I'm thinking we're going to see that here, Evan, especially with the damage on the 89 of Adams and with the EOL that Barnes just got. It's going to be a tough hill to climb. So I'm going to be looking at Eckrich or Blaze. Maybe one of those 2 come home with the win.
Pace car down and in, 102 laps complete, 23 laps to go for the South Boston Speedway. The number 7 machine of Eckrich off the way again, and these late race restarts have not caught him sleeping. Continues to hit his marks, clear for the race lead. Blaze within striking distance though, tries to drive it in hard as we battle side by side for third behind. Just 2 quick off, pulls to 3 car lengths.
This might be Blaze's best shot to really start running away and trying to catch Eckrich. He hasn't had a lot of breathing room behind him throughout this event to go run down the 70, but it looks like he's starting to gap both of Matt Cucker and John Ouellette as Ouellette goes to the outside to drop the 69 car back to 4th. So the top 4 now single file and a whole host of beating and banging behind them. Jeremy Adams, of all people, has found his way back up into the top 5.
And after starting in 3rd, obviously trying to work himself back up to where he started this race. Might not be able to get all the way back to the top of that ladder, but for the time being, doing what he can. Single file now through P6. Cucker gets 4th. Adams going to get 5th. And now there's going to be a challenge for 6th, though. Here comes the 20 Lade. Lade has been in a lot of fights tonight, and it looks like he'll take one away from Wilkinson.
Yeah, just now clears the 26 of Wilkinson. Wilkinson not going to lay over just yet here, guys. Going to be on the inside. Once again, not going to quite be able to make it stick just behind them. Trevor, Jody Green and Adam Rigo going at it just behind him. Now Rigo going to fall off. Whoa, making it really close there. That's going to be DJ Beverly. They all just went around slow on the inside. Now Rigo's going to try to fight off Barnes. Barnes going to make quick work, it looks like, of the 17, and he does.
26 machine trying to get up a little bit extra in front of the field, a little bit more forward in a battle for what looks like 6th. Almost contact there as well. Lie Dave for the time being still in front of Wilkinson, but up front this time by only 15 laps to go from Sobo. It is a half a second advantage for Scott Eckrich over Blaze P2, and will let another half a second back in 3rd.
I have a feeling we might see some bounty money paid out before too long. A little bit of lap traffic, though, in the way. Couldn't quite tell who that was. Reese Nobles in the 9 car nearly got in front of John Ouellette. Be very curious to see what happens here once this big pack of cars gets that 9 machine, because he's been running up high, and they will probably run right into the rear of him. Hopefully they can avoid him when we get to that point, but something to watch. It might stack up everybody. It might bring out one more yellow if they're not careful.
Just take a look. There's a lot going on outside of the top 10. All those drivers separated by mere tenths of a second. You see the 9 machine getting well out of the way. That is Reese Nobles, who will fall 2 laps down. First car off of the lead lap now, who's running in that number 14 position. But this race not over with yet. You got Jody Green in the 13, Kyle Barnes in the 00. The 00 with the advantage that time by the line in front of them. Jeremy Adams going at it again, and Wilkinson lost a lot of speed at it too. The 20 get it on to the inside. There was some contact at a battle that originally had the 20 aligned. A Thompson on the 26 has now reversed itself. These guys are far from over, and they're only going to have 10 laps to go this time by to determine a battle for 5th on back, which is still hot and heavy.
Yeah, look, Wilkinson now going to have his sights set on the 89 of Adams. Adams doing a great job holding that 5th place position, but Wilkinson going to the inside line, trying to give it everything he got, advance the position. Meanwhile, just behind him, Barnes and Lide do the tango just a little bit side by side. Now, Adams trying to do what he's done all night and hold that top side pinch off the corner and limit that 26 run. Meanwhile, smooth sailing for Scott Eckridge up at the front, as he's been on a tear ever since he's taken the lead.
Eckridge didn't really show any exceptional times, to be honest, guys. Earlier tonight was 4th in warm-up session, 9th on the grid, kind of a top 10 car like we expect him to have, but in race trim, and I think particularly something we were talking about earlier on to Pike as well was conserving those tires. He didn't bully his way through the field like some of the guys. Blaze at a point tonight had started behind him, but was in front of him as well, and I think kind of at that midway point once he got up front has really turned up the wick. These restarts have been a challenge because it has meant that he has had to obviously go through the motions, push hard for those couple of laps, but I think when you want to talk about a strategically oriented race and a 70 machine using his equipment when it matters the most, so far so good.
And I think that comes from the practice. We know that Eckridge has been training here and running practice laps at South Boston for the better part of 2 weeks now, so that's plenty of time to find a decent setup in a car that works. And even though I thought that he might have pushed a little bit too hard getting to the race lead, it wasn't a case of that at all. In fact, it was just that his setup is that good, and that 70 car is that good that provided nothing crazy happens here, he's only a handful of laps away from taking the late model checkered flag tonight.
Good to go next time by. Does have some lap traffic that he's going to have to deal with. Naslin in front of him, and there's going to be a caution flag, so it's not going to matter. They'll pace to the end of it. It is a big mess, and it all starts with the 89 of Jeremy Adams. That battle for 5th on back that was so good for so long finally turned sour as a 26 machine Wilkinson tried the bottom. It did not work, and they made a mess down in turns 1 and 2, taking out almost all of those drivers we had been talking about. The 26 ends up on his lid. Luckily for the likes of Matt Kunker, he was in front of when that happened, but that got ugly and took all of that excitement away.
Holy cow is all I gotta say about that. Adams was not wanting to move an inch, but Wilkinson had to come up the track because there was really nowhere to go unless he wanted to go into the inside wall, Evan, and just upset the 89 into the inside wall, collects the 26 again back up into Rigo and a whole bunch of other drivers, and pretty much carried Wilkinson up onto his lid as a whole host of drivers pile into that one.
So it's going to be the same result, no less, but it is going to be a little bit slower than it was originally planned to be. The number 70 machine of Scott Eckridge takes the checkered flag tonight and wins from South Boston Speedway in the car's eSport Tour Late Model Stock Championship, becoming just the 5th different winner we have seen on 2017.
A big run for him, and I believe, if I'm correct, he has broken the bounty that 6-man events here have held all season, and so should be a little bit of extra money that comes to Eckridge too at the end of this evening.
And that is something that has stood for quite some time, and just now getting it confirmed that the bounty is going to go to the number 70 machine. If you've been tuning in with us on a weekly basis here, the bounty had been set to knock the Matt Cuckers and the Christian Petersons and that team off of the throne, and it had been unable to be done so. The only time that none of those drivers won was way back at the Bull Ring earlier on this year. We did see Kyle Barnes take a checkered flag at Kentucky, but the 70 machine of Scott Eckridge finally on the last night not only going to get the walkway with the $20 for parking it in Victory Lane, but he also gets a little bit of added cash for taking home the bonus. I think that if you had to choose, aside from winning the most races on the year, like we'll talk with our champion in just a little bit here, Matt Cucker getting 5 total, if you're going to win one race, I would say take the last one and take the bounty too. Why not?
That's exactly a win. As I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, go out on a high note, and I think this is the highest note you can go out on with Scott Eckridge, and even Matt Cucker with getting that win, as you can see him just behind Eckridge, burning those tires down. Definitely some excitement from that 69 machine. What a way to end off our first race of the night here in the finale.
We'll try to get a word with your top finishers and your champion if we can in just a moment. We'll see how that is going to play out. But in the meantime, let's take a look top to bottom at your LSRTV full race results tonight from South Boston Speedway. For the late model stocks, it is Scott Eckridge, win number 1 on 2017. Picks up 8 spots to take home the checkered flag in front of really a big group of drivers who made great improvements. Connor Blaze, who comes home in P2, also goes plus 8 positions on the evening, and John Olet, a fantastic run, comes in and takes the biggest mover position tonight, plus 16 spots to come home in third. A couple of top qualifiers also round to the top 5. Matt Cucker right there in fourth is going to be able to secure his first ever Cars eSport Tour Late Model Stock Series Championship, and John Lyde behind started fourth and ends up in fifth when it's all said and done. Adam Rigo with a good night comes home in seventh tonight. Jody Green takes the unlucky of a 13 starting spot, turns it into a top 7. Jacob Porter, not the greatest of evenings, but did improve after falling outside of the top 10. Your pole sitter comes home at 8th spot. Kyle Young is 9th, and Reese Nobles is 10th.
Will Trevicki was the first car 2 laps down. Didn't have a car finish 1 lap down tonight, but he finished in the 11th position. Jeremy Adams was the focal point of a lot of action tonight, ends up in the 12th spot at the end of the day, 3 laps down. Brandon Wilkinson and Kyle Barnes got caught up in that big wreck with Adams right at the end. They finished 13th and 14th respectively. Devin Morgan in the 12 car finishes 15th tonight. DJ Beverly, first car out of the race before the very end of it, finishes 16th. James Milbachler was DQ'd with about 20 to go, finishes 17th. Christian Peterson ran into trouble on the front straightaway on one of the late race restarts, and his bid for the late model championship comes up short. He'll finish 18th. Scott Naslin got crashed out in the middle of the race, finished 19th, and Kyle Leveralt in the 7 car finished 20th tonight.
Just running through the rest of your field here. 70 laps down goes to Joshua King in that 21st position. Tommy Ryan going to bring it home in 22nd. Jeremy Watkins behind the wall in 23rd, and 24th is Robbie Bundy.
Look top to the bottom at your LSRTV full race results. We head trackside to chat with the driver of the number 70 machine. Scott Eckridge is your late model stock winner tonight from the South Boston Speedway, and we're down with him now. Scott, congratulations on the win. No stranger to finding success here on LSRTV and iRacing Live, but tonight it's in the Cars eSport Tour, and it's at Sobo, 5th different winner to take home a win in these cars this year, and you guys do it in quite spectacular fashion, taking home the bounty as well in the last race of the season.
Yeah, it was big for us tonight. We're new to this series, so we came out here with one objective, which was to take that bounty and take the victory, and we seem to get it.
125 laps, obviously kind of the average for this series. I don't think it's necessarily on the long end of the spectrum. I wouldn't say it was one of our shorter ones either, though. But Sobo's a racetrack that doesn't have a lot of space. We saw some of the championship guys kind of get caught up in some of those accidents. You guys started 9th. It's not a terrible qualifying spot. Anytime you can take a top 10, definitely go for it. But, kind of in the middle of the pack, kind of having to deal with working around guys whilst also conserving those tires at the same time. How did you guys strike a balance between the two that would allow you to be quick when it mattered the most at the end, or maybe some guys didn't quite have left as you guys still did?
Well, a lot of that I got to hand to the Connor Blaze Enterprises here. We kind of threw something together last minute this afternoon, And I'd say about lap 25, lap 30 is when we knew we pretty much had it in the bag. You know, we were running the low line, not even pushing, we're saving 2-3 tenths a lap, and just really felt like we had a lot of speed there. And when we got to the leader, we could pass him down low when other people were struggling with the runoff. You know, we knew we had a good car right out of the gate.
This racetrack is one that lends itself to very close quarters action, no doubt. The good news for you guys in the second half of the race, maybe didn't feel like that. I know that the restarts, I'm sure, were something that you would have rather not had to deal with, but out in front, it wasn't that crazy. But the inside, the outside, there's not a lot of space here. So we saw back in the pack a lot of guys rubbing on each other, a lot of guys just kind of getting physical in general. It was a good kind of short track-esque kind of an evening. Did you find the inside or the outside particularly better, one or the other? Because it looked like tonight, at least, depending on someone's preference, both lanes were plausible.
Yeah, for our setup, it really liked that bottom. It seemed to keep the tires on it longest, keep it rolling real good. Obviously, we would have rather seen it go green, especially with the good restarts we were getting. But you kind of got to expect that when as tight as this track is off up the corner, and in addition to the lanes coming together right there off the corner, you're going to have some incidents. So you got to kind of prepare for that, and make sure you do save enough tire for that inevitable late race restart.
I think it's safe to say whenever the car gets parked at Victory Lane that it is a fun and successful evening for you guys. Is there going to be plans down the road to maybe make this a full-time thing?
Yeah, we'll have to get with the team and see what our plans are for continuing on from here. But yeah, I think you'll probably see us back here.
Well, tonight, obviously the focus is the championship, with it being the last race on the season, and the guys who walk away with the title and who had the most wins on the season did not have anything for that number 70 machine tonight. So if you guys do decide to compete for a championship down the line, may tonight serve as a notice to them in case that happens, Scott. But we'll let you take off here and get going. But before, as always, the sponsors and the shout-outs who makes it happen.
Yeah, I mean, Blaze Enterprises, together with Skylarker's Chassis tonight, it was good. We're real proud of everybody on board. And as always, thank you guys for a great progress.
The race winner tonight from South Boston Speedway, Scott Eckridge, in the number 70 machine. Scott, always a pleasure. Congratulations again. And hopefully for your sake as well, but the success you found tonight, and I think as well, the people at home would enjoy it as well. Hopefully we'll see you down the line.
Thank you, guys.
That's your race winner in the late model stocks. Again, the championship is going to go to Matt Cucker, and I believe we are going to catch up with your champion at the end of the evening because, well, one big piece of hardware has been handed out. Another one still has to be made official, and we're only halfway through tonight's action at the South Boston Speedway, so we'll take this opportunity to step aside, and when we come back, another 125 laps go on top of the scoring pylon, and we go super late model racing for the final time on the season. You're watching LSRTV's continuing coverage of the Championship Esports Association's 2017 Cars eSport Tour at iRacing Live. Matt Cucker is your late model stock champion. The super late model finale coming right up.
The Cars Tour.
Philip Morris in charge. We're off and racing into turn number 1. Lane Riggs going to get the jump down the back straightaway, and this could be the valuable point he needs to move ahead. One extra marker in the championship, and Lane Riggs will lead lap number 1. The championship gap now back up to 2 points as Riggs.
Morris now looks to the inside of Lane Riggs. Nothing there. Lane Riggs holds on to the spot, but it looks like Morris has the fast car, moves, gets into the back of him just a bit, and they're side by side down the backstretch. Philip Morris to the inside, Lane Riggs to the outside. Riggs tries to cut down right in front of the 808 of Deke McCaskill. They touch coming off of turn 4. McCaskill to the inside, new leader, Philip Morris. Crum down on the inside, McCarty drifting up the track a bit. You see the track has darkened up a lot already. Spin in turn number 2, that is the number 31 machine, Thomas Bean. Right in front of the Budweiser building. Hard lick. That car missing a little bit of body damage, front end damage to the number 31 Bean machine tonight. Green flag back in the air, and we are back underway. Tough start for Lane Riggs. He's drifted up the track. Big trouble for Lane Riggs. 3 wide as he come off a turn number. Lane Riggs slowing way down. 3, 4 wide coming off a turn number 4. Restart zone. Green flags back in the air, and we are back underway. Philip Morris, Deke McCaskill side by side as they come off of turn number 2. They're going to drag race down the backstretch with Timothy Peters right in their mirror as they go back into turn number 3. Philip Morris drifts up the track just a little bit. They touch coming off of turn number 4. Yellow flag flies. Trouble in turn number 3. It is a number 15 car of Kyle Barnes. He has come to a green flag back in the air, and we are back underway. Side by side as they go through turns 1 and 2. Field stacked and packed all the way back. It is Philip Morris leading. Deke McCaskill second. Stacked up behind McCaskill though. You see Bobby McCarty going to the outside. McCarty's going to tuck back in behind him. First, second, third. Lined up nose to tail. Battle is for 4. Here it is. Deke McCaskill trying to get by Philip Morris as they go into turn number 1. McCaskill has found some speed on the high side. Philip Morris throws a block just a little bit, gets his bumper just in front. McCaskill makes the move to the high side. They're side by side as they go through turn number 4. Side by side for the lead. Here comes Deke McCaskill. He's got a half car length. Move Deke McCaskill to the lead for now. Can he hold it as they come back past the start-finish line? Yes, he can. New leader, Deke McCaskill, folks. Trouble in turn number 2. The 0-1 of Philip Morris goes up in a ball of smoke. Philip Morris, major trouble. Caution flag flies. Pace car's off. Field works their way past the Jericho Performance restart zone. Green flag back in the air, and we are back underway. This time, great start by Deke McCaskill. He's got a half car length as we go back into turn number 1. You see the 17 of Stacy Purrier right away move his way back up to the top groove. That is where his car has been fast. That's where it's worked, and that's where he's trying to get to the outside of Deke McCaskill as they come off at turn number 4. Purrier to the inside of Deke McCaskill through 1 and 2. McCaskill blocked Purrier's fast lane on the outside. Gonna try to make it work on the outside. Side by side as they come off of turn number 4. McCaskill, he will clear Purrier as they go back into turn 1. Advantage has been opened up now about 4 or 5 car lengths. Back behind him, Blake Stallings. A little bit of contact with Ryan Repko as they went into 3. They come off of turn 4. Stallings takes the advantage. Will Repko have anything to say about that? Brushes him up the track. A little bit of wiggle from Stallings. And now more contact as they go back into 1. Repko gets moved up the track. Blake does not have the speed that he is hoping for. Trouble in turn number 2, and that is in number 2. Brandon Pierce goes around. Caution flag flies. McCaskill gets a good run, and we are back under green. And we lose a hood. That was a 77 machine. Right there. Go. Yep. Go. That is a 77 machine of Blake Stallings. His hood comes flying off. Field works through the Jericho Performance restart zone. Green flag back in the air, and we are back underway yet again. Once again, good start by Deke McCaskill, and once again, Stacy Purrier battling for his life on the inside. Field works down the backstretch. Good drag race. You see the 2 Autos by Nelson cars right there as well. Side by side through 3 and 4. Purrier's a little bit loose that time by, and this time he's got a mirror full of Bobby McCarty as they go back off of turn number 2. Deke McCaskill takes a white flag as he dives back into turn number 1. Deep McCaskill comes off of turn number 2. He races down the backstretch. Deep McCaskill dives it into turn number 3. He's going to come off of turn number 4, and Deep McCaskill wins the Autos by Nelson 125 here at South Boston Speedway. Back behind him, 2 more clean corners. Josh Berry comes off of turn number 4 in the mirror of Anthony Alfredo. Josh Berry is your 2017 Cars Tour champion, winning the championship here at South Boston Speedway.
Welcome back, LSRTV, your home for sim racing, as we wrap up our coverage of the 2017 Championship Esports Association Cars eSport Tour with the final race of the season, the Super Late Model feature at South Boston Speedway in South Boston, Virginia. And for the most part, Christian Peterson has got this championship wrapped up, so there shouldn't be a lot of drama on that front at all. There might be a few places in the points that change behind him. But we've got a really, really big field. 22 cars lined up to take this feature, which is one of the largest fields we've had. I think only Martinsville back at the end of June had a bigger field for this race. So a lot of competition coming to try and get the bounty. We saw it taken in that last race by Scott Eckrich from the Vincier 6-man team duo that's dominated this season. So can someone do it again here in the Super Late Model feature?
And that is the golden question right there, James. And this field is huge, like you mentioned, 2 cars short from the field we had in the previous race. And that's because everybody's coming out for the biggest night in the Cars eSports season. It's the finale, South Boston Speedway. Produced some great and very, very aggressive racing last race, so I don't expect anything different. And as you mentioned, Christian Peterson has pretty much got this thing locked up. Just being informed that there is not a bounty in this race, since it was claimed by Eckrich. There is no bounty informed by race control. So Eckrich in that 70 machine last race gonna be the only one that comes away with that bounty. So very, very lucky, and a huge congrats goes to that driver. But now we get to focus on the super lates as we get ready to get underway. Cars warming up on the track right now. Really just looking forward to this race at all. Like I've mentioned, not really acquainted with Cars eSports Tour, and I've heard a lot about it, and especially all the talent in this race so far as we get ready to grid them up and get ready to go for another 125 laps. If we take a look at the starting grid, the 29 of Mike Marinelli is going to start on that first place position. Will Dravicki in that 30 machine, he's going to be second. Third is going to be Scott Austin. Fourth, Jody Green. And fifth, it's going to go to Devin Morgan. Evan.
And then you'll find Matt Cucker right there in the number 6 spot. That's going to be outside on row 3. John Ouellette and Kyle Barnes back on row 4 and 7th and 8th, with William Hale 9th, and Colby Vance rounds out our top 10.
John Lyday going to start in that 11th place position. 12th goes to the 89 of Jeremy Adams. Robbie Bundon going to be starting 13th. 14th goes to Kyle Leveralt. 15th, that 40 of Richard Reagan Jr.
Final couple of times in queue. DJ Beverly starts this one in 16th position. Kyle Young in 17th. Reese Nobles will round out the times to take a time to qualifying in the number 18 spot. And then Christian Peterson, 19th, first time at a provisional. Again, has the championship mathematically locked up already. And Tommy Ryan is outside P20.
21 goes to 21st goes to Tanner Cook. Jacob Porter is 22nd. Rounding out your 23 car field, Evan, that's Jeremy Watkins. So getting ready to go another 125 laps. Do you expect it to be as aggressive as the last one?
Listen, I love the late models, and I'm always going to be a fan of them, but the super late's got that little bit of extra bite to it, but I think that these guys are going to go at it. It is a smaller field, just barely, at like 4 cars or so. It's not going to make a huge difference, so I think that the super late models one is going to be exciting because Peterson really doesn't have to be timid. In fact, nobody does. Sure, there's still people fighting for points, as we will see the green flag come by to the next time. You know, Scott Austin, Kyle Young separated by me 3 points for the difference between 5th and 6th in a championship. That's a good little chunk of change between those two, but I think that based on the amount of just physicality we saw in the last one, guys hitting each other, guys rubbing on each other, this should be a very exciting conclusion to the 2017 Cars eSport Tour for the super late models, and we're happy that you're sticking it through with us at LSRTV and iRacing Live. Green flag in the air, final time this season for 125 laps at Ian Rally, clear for the top spot.
Here for the top spot, and a caution already, as we're not going to make it through a full lap here. Huge wreck in turn 1.
That answers your question. If these guys going at it right off at the start. This one actually came from all the way back in 21st. It was a big accordion effect. Something that you do see on the speedways, I will admit, not as often on the short tracks as maybe at a plate track where guys really sit on the gas, but they just got stacked up on the outside of the racetrack. One guy checks up, the guy behind him is going to check up a little bit harder, vice versa. That goes on and on and on. And unfortunately for Porter, he just happened to be the braking point and the odd man out, and just kind of a racing deal, and that would have brings out an early caution flag here at Sobo, even before those final 2/5 of a mile wrapped up.
Yeah, and that's just one of the things you have to deal with when you put 23 cars on one track, Evan. That's massive for such a small track like Sobo, and that's exactly what we saw stacking up there on the restart. Guys got to get acquainted to it, because, you know, You mentioned that the super lates have that just little bit of bite to them, and a lot of drivers just coming off the late model race kind of have to reacquaint themselves to that bite. So we might see a little bit of a feeling out process in these first few laps.
Incident, I think, ended up involving about 2 or 3 cars total by the time all the smoke had cleared and such. Race leaders were not really close to backing into that one, so everybody up front's going to be okay. But for as short of a run that was, we did get a lot of movement up at the front of the field. First of all, Scott Austin used the advantage of the inside of row number 2 to be able to jump up to second, so he and Will Trevecchi are going to swap out spots. Austin's going to be outside row 1 this time. Trevecchi's going to be the inside, but Devin Morgan also picked up a spot. He went from 5th to 4th, so it looked like all the guys who made up a position, Chris, on the inside of the racetrack because they restarted on the inside of the racetrack are going to now be on the outside and might have that spot taken back away. So for them, not a fan of the early yellow.
Yeah, no, not at all. We saw in the last race the outside line was coming in just a little bit by using that pinch. I don't see that becoming a very big factor in this race. Maybe a small bit if they continue the pinch, but a weird turn of events, the 29 just pulled down pit road. So you mentioned Scott Austin going to be on the inside. Scratch that, he'll be leading as we get ready to go back green on the inside row. So not too sure why the 29 ducked down, but in any way, the 05 Scott Austin, your new leader.
We will get another opportunity. Just kind of hit the reset button. This yellow's so early enough that it's not, I think, going to be a big factor when it's down towards the end of this thing. We'll see what the 05 to 30 machine can do. This time, though, Scott Austin going to be able to dictate the start. Really didn't go all that early, though. Waited to the drop of the green flag. Just as good. He's cleared for the race lead. And there goes Devin Morgan picking up more spots to 12. All of a sudden, rockets to P2.
Yeah, trying to get everything he can. Gonna have his sight set on Scott Austin. Now look at Matt Cucker, though, gonna jump to the outside with no hesitation on Morgan, trying to get everything he can. That 69 just came off of a huge win, getting that championship in the late model. Is gonna waste 0 time, get around the 12. Huge stack up behind them is the 44 of Vance and Dravicki. Goes side by side with Ouellette and Green just behind them.
Green in a good spot right now, but this is where all the excitement is. Kind of very similar to what we saw in the late model Stockwood earlier. Guys up front are able to find some separation. 2/10 between the leaders, about a half a second from Cucker to Morgan, and then Morgan advanced. But Dravecki is in the thick of things, and it is not a good lap for the 30. Drops another spot as John Ouellette completes the move. And I thought Wilhelm Bada had him at the line. The 62 didn't technically get that spot, but William Haley inside the 62 now gets it out. So at least in comparison to earlier on, outside, not a friendly place at all in the super lates.
Yeah, it definitely is not a friendly. You never want to be stuck up there at all. Meanwhile, Matt Cucker shaping up for the lead, I should say, Evan, as you see Cucker starting on that outside line and basically diming it down, and that's where you start on the inside and you really just nip the corner off and get that run on the outside. He's been able to do that and all over the back bumper of Scott Austin. Now he's going to look towards the outside, going to be at the corner panel, not going to quite be able to make it. No, he does make it stick, going to be even with the 05, going through 3 and 4, trying to get everything he can. 05 checks up just a little bit. That's going to allow 69 and Matt Cucker to take that lead.
Matt Cucker gets in front, maybe looking for a little bit of redemption from earlier on in the 90s. On the flip side of things, again, second in the points, but because it is a 31-point deficit to Christian Peterson, he cannot take much solace in the fact that Peterson's running in 13th. This championship was mathematically decided as of, I guess, one race ago, but it was basically been a month since the last time this Cars eSport Tour has been on track, and Cucker is looking for what would only be a second win in these cars. Christian Peterson has won all but one, or rather, I guess for the first 2 weeks, points races on the season. Adams did take a double header, but Christian Peterson won every single week from May all the way through late August. And you know, it's been such an impressive run for him. And Cucker, I think, uncharacteristically shut out of this thing, but he's been up there. P2s, P3s, and such, and it's not going to be a walk in the park, though. Another caution coming out at lap 18.
Trying to figure out where that one came from. Looks like it looks like to involve the 96 of Tanner Cook just a little bit there, Evan. Maybe not. It looks like it happened
the 90
in front of him. Yeah, the 90 of Jeremy Watkins there getting involved in something. So unfortunate for those drivers. Starting in 23rd, didn't really make it. Huge contact on the inside wall, gonna end the night of Jeremy Watkins.
But I was struggling too to try to locate where that car had gone around, and it was the Donnie machine who ends up spinning it and got stuck onto the inside fence, and then decided to take that quick tow back to the safety of pit road, which is why when we went searching for him, by the time the lights came on top of the pace car, he was for all intensive purposes no longer there. So that's why obviously you didn't see it. But a racetrack, so 2 relatively early caution flags in this race has us slowed down once more at lap number 20. Again, this super late model race just the same a distance as the late model Stockwood earlier tonight. 125 laps apiece make up coverage of tonight's Sobo 250. Coverage of tonight's Cars eSport Tour finale is brought to you by our friends at Joel Real Timing, the official timing software of LSRTV. Whether you spend your time on the sim behind the wheel, on top of the pit box, or from the spotter stand, JRT is your go-to software for iRacing timing and scoring analytics. You can get yourself a basic download or get the pro version today online by logging on to joel-real-timing.com for more information. And of course, you can keep an eye at the top of your screen to keep an eye on where everybody is over the course of the evening. But Chris, a very mellow and kind of slow start to this SLM feature with 2 yellows in the opening 20.
Yeah, two yellows in the opening 20, but there's been a lot of movement around this entire field within these short 20 laps and these short green flag laps here, Evan. We've got Cucker taking the lead. Ouellette and Morgan have been side by side. Even William Hale going from 9th to 5th, so he's slowly moving up in the ranks here. So just a whole lot of movement going on. Nobody wanting to settle for anything.
And lights are going to go back out on top of the pace car, so we are going to get this race back underway. 23 laps complete, still 102 to go. Plenty of distance for the likes of Cucker, Austin, Ouellette, Morgan, and Hale to decide this one. But for the first time tonight, Cucker is going to be in control for the restart. He can go at his discretion, and he is off and away as we get back racing. A challenge inbound for second. Here comes the 81 of John Ouellette powering up, and a challenge for second.
Really good run to the inside by Ouellette. Got clear of the 05 of Scott Alston by a car length or two. And now Alston's going to have to fight the 62 of William Hale as they go through 1 and 2 side by side. And they're stacking up the back. They just about wrecked, but hung on to it. So we'll stay green for the moment. But a lot of action here in the middle of the pack as Cucker and Ouellette started to jump out and gap on the rest of the field.
The 12 machine is stuck up on the outside of the racetrack. Morgan, who had a great start to this race after starting 5th, got up to P2, now finds himself on the reverse end of the strategy that he was using, but contact, and it's Jody Green who's going to get tagged, and it is a mess in turn 1.
And Jody Green considerably upset with that one, and understandably, in my opinion there, Evan. The 44 of Kobe Vance trying to get a little bit too much in my eyes, you know, trying to use the apron to his advantage, trying to get everything he can, tries to force it 3 wide, clips the quarter panel, and sends both those cars around at the start-finish line.
Another yellow in this one, and it was a little bit of an impromptu 3 wide. I just don't think that the 13 and the 12 knew it. And even if they did, this kind of goes back to a very similar incident we saw in the late model stocks with Peterson getting taken out there near the end pike. I just don't think at Sobo, we've been talking about how thin of a racetrack it is, and if you park the cars 3 wide, it works, but when you're at race speed, I just don't see it happening at a turn 4. I think that's the second time we've tried it, and it's the second time we've junked race cars.
Which is kind of weird in a sense, because you run this track on the sim and it doesn't feel like it narrows up on corner exit, especially out of 2 and 4, the same way as it does at like a Dover or a Texas or another one of those big Class A type tracks. But I think what we're seeing here is that even though it doesn't look like it narrows up it much in those points, that in a lot of ways it tightens up even more here at South Boston than it does at tracks like that, especially when you consider how small this track is and how many cars we've got on track. So maybe to some degree we shouldn't be too surprised that we're seeing so many issues here out of turns 2 and 4.
And we also saw very early on in that late model stock race, guys really driving it down low to the inside of the racetrack, really cheating that yellow line. I haven't necessarily, Chris, noticed as much of that, at least in the early portions of this super late model race. The top has not been as friendly, so you would expect people to be lower to the bottom of the racetrack, but it almost seems like that middle ground, the place to be early on, and especially for the guys up front, because you can get single filed out, you can take that line, but you're really seeing it back about P5 and 6 or so, where you'll have somebody like a Devin Morgan pick up a bunch of spots in 2-3 laps because he's on the bottom, and then lose a bunch of spots in 2-3 laps because now he's on the top.
And the real outlier to that statistic there, Evan, is Matt Cucker, who's got his positions exclusively on the outside line. We saw him do it to Scott Austin. We saw him do it to a few others. Now he's leading this race, and he's really frequenting that middle groove. So he's really the outlier, but as you said, nobody else really wanting to mess with that outside line.
Lights out on top of the pace car once more. Matt Cucker wants the inside of the racetrack. It worked last time. Going to do another good restart with John Ouellette on his right-hand side. Green flag in the air, and it is another good jump. 1.5 car lengths clear to turn 1, and caution behind.
Big wreck here. Robbie Bunden got caught up in it. Jeremy Adams got caught up in it. I saw 2 more cars there sitting on the outside wall of turn 1. I think John Lyday might be the other one here. And this all started, I couldn't tell if Bunden got help from behind from Kyle Leveralt. He may have not. But somehow, no, I don't think he did. So I think Bunden somehow got into Lyday. He checked up and came down a little bit, got into Lyday, turned Lyday around, and then Bunden and Leveralt. And I think Kyle Barnes, the 00, also got caught up in that too with a little bit of damage. Just didn't have anywhere to go as everybody was moving very easily past it below him, and he had to check up for everybody wrecking above him on the track.
Looks like 18 cars going to be scored on the lead lap after all of this. Obviously, Jeremy Adams ends up at the back in the fray. Quite a contrast in comparison to the likes of Cucker up front. But restarts have been a lot more dicey as well. Back to the question Chris asked before we went green, is this one going to be as exciting? I think too exciting, to the point where we got to be able to get to those 7 or 8 laps or so where you can get some single file. We really didn't see, in all honesty, any single point in that late model stock event where there wasn't side-by-side somewhere, especially that group just at the tail end of the top 10. But at least you got to get the top 5 single file. But these guys, they got to get off the line. I think a little bit of an extra extra bite, I guess is the word I'm looking for, if you want, with these super late models. Guys getting into each other on the restarts more so than we saw earlier tonight. Couple of times we've seen an accordion effect. That one I think was a little bit of overzealous digging, but you do have to consider, again, sure, 125 laps is not long on a stopwatch, but at lap 36, still plenty of time to take it easy to work through.
And overzealous is the perfect word to use for that, Evan. You know, once that first race got under the belt, once that late model race was over, a lot of these drivers who ran in that late model race going to be signed up for this super late race. So they've already got that itch. They want to go. They want to give it everything they got, and they want to push hard. And it's just too much right now. They can't really handle it. They haven't felt out the track and felt out what they need to do to get around this place safely, guys. So you're going to see a lot of this until they figure that out.
Look to see if the lights go out on top of the pace car as of this time. By just an update, Christian Peterson has been working his way through, along with DJ Beverly and Kyle Young. They all kind of started together between 15th and 20th. They're all right now 6, 7, and 8 on the racetrack, respectively. Because they have fast cars, and we expect those names to be in a competition and be competitive, I guess, late in these races. But also, I think they've been fortunate enough to get around some of those accidents. So you don't want to see yellows, but there's always somebody to benefit from it. And I'd like to see if DJ Beverly, from a subpar Q effort for the 42 compared to what that team has been averaging all season long, if they can take advantage of it. But again, he's on the outside, so not only keep an eye this time as Cucker can go from when the pace car drops down pit road to the green flag dropping, but watch the cars on the outside of the first couple of rows off of the front row to see how they do. There's no issues up front. Again, the 69 well out in control. Maybe a challenge for second. Here comes Hale. Can't get the bite out of 2.
Really, really good jump for Cucker again. Olet gets down to the bottom immediately, and then you've got Hale, and then you've got Alston, and it's side by side back for the fifth spot. DJ Beverly on the outside trying to clear Devin Morgan, and then you've got Peterson stacked up there behind Morgan, and to his outside is Kyle Young.
Caution again, lap 41, and again, off of the restart, trying to get these cars up to speed, and it is the 6th this time at Tommy Ryan. These incidents are not happening way in the back, and it is DJ Beverly involved. Just talking about how if that 42 machine would be able to do anything with the outside of the racetrack, and this one, I think, avoidable, guys. The 42 felt like he was, and I think was clear, and Morgan wanted, and I think maybe was expecting the 42, even though he was clear, to not go down. It's something that we've seen tonight, especially with the preferred lane not being weighed on the bottom, and the 42, I guess, has first right to that lane, goes down, and by that point, Morgan had already committed to driving it in, and at that point, it was too late to avoid.
Yeah, just not really expecting it there, guys. Just diving again a little bit too deep from what the 42 expected. Straight up, the 93 able to keep it or get by DJ Beverly, but Tommy Ryan not able to get through it at all. Drivers going down way below the yellow line just to drop below. Reese Noble's also getting some damage in between that. So everybody seemed to be making it through it pretty decent, except for those few drivers that got involved.
Another incident for the middle of the pack, and all those names that I was talking about, well, a lot of them got a little bit too close for comfort in that exchange. Still okay, though, for Young and Peterson. Peterson, I think, lucked out because of the fact that that fence really drops off at the inside of the racetrack for the entry at turn 3 to the exit at turn number 4, because he used that little bit of extra flat space for the pit road entry to hang on to his car, so he'll be okay. It never went all the way around, and he runs in 7th position at the moment. Young's still going to be up there in P6, but I have to feel some sliver of responsibility for saying, let's look at DJ Beverly, and then Beverly getting into an accident. So I'll take partly blame on the yellow there.
You don't even have like a golden horseshoe or anything to give him, or a cookie or anything?
I've got nothing to offer to make up for it.
Tickets to the Golden Knights, maybe?
We'll work on something there.
But yeah, no, we'll see if he can bring it back up to the front of this field as we get everybody bunched up. Cucker to lead them back to green on lap 47, then Ouellette, Hale, Austin, Young, Peterson, Porter, Dravicki, Vance, and Richard Reagan, your top 10.
And again, quick yellows here, so we're going to go right back at it, continuing on. Despite all the yellows, almost halfway here, though. 46 laps complete this time. Matt Cucker continues to be so good on the restarts. Exactly what we saw last time, with Hale trying to get to the inside, and Hale getting cleared at a turn number 2. Aggressive swipe to the inside by Ouellette to protect that bottom as he tries to aim for the 69 machine.
Yeah, Ouellette knows just how fast that 62 of William Hale is on these short tracks. All over the back bumper of the 81, that is William Hale. He's going to try to swipe down the inside, and he's going to get there using the inside all the way to his advantage, but Ouellette able to get clear. Now caution out once again.
Issues with the 13 of Jody Green. Had a fantastic start to the night, but it involved in a couple of accidents since then, and I kind of in between here. We'll get a second look at the LSRTV replay in a minute. That on the 13, they both just kind of didn't know where each other were. They were side by side. They knew that. Green a little bit high. You know, maybe the non-machinered oval's a little bit low. The only thing that I can say is that the 9 was a lap car. Maybe yield a little bit more, but I think 2 cars going for 1 piece of real estate, regardless of how it all went down. Jody Green not happy over the radar, I think, particularly because of that second point that the 9 was a lap down.
Yeah, but I think it also goes to speak, A, how hard everybody's racing in this finale, and B, a point that we've come back to over and over again already in this race is that there's just not a lot of space. And I think there's something about these super late models where corner entry seems to be a bit more of an issue. You try and run the same line. We saw with the late models that everybody was kind of spread out through the corners. Some people ran that bottom lane. Some people were happier running in the middle of the track. But here, it looks like everybody wants to be towards the bottom. So we're just seeing a lot of guys trying to fight for that space, and a few wrecks like that have happened as a result.
We're starting to see the percentage of cars on the lead lap without damage begin to dwindle. To be fair, it is a short track, and we expect that to be a thing. Again, the 69 is looking okay. The thing that I would hate if I'm Cucker is my car is fast. You know, we saw the Ouellette machine make that nice move for P2, be able to challenge him, but it's kind of been hard to get a good sample size as far as, is the 69 good after 10, 15 laps? Because we haven't seen it run that distance, but at least on these restarts, picture perfect. He can go early, he can go late. That car goes to turn 1. The biggest thing helping him out is oftentimes this battle for second. You saw Ouellette do it on Hale. We'll see if we see it back the other way around once more as that 62 lines up on the inside of row number 2 again. But, you know, you're starting to see the likes of Peterson. He's up to P5, a little bit of damage, but in the picture, Kyle Young, Colby Vance, Jacob Porter, 6, 7, and 8 respectively, knocking on the door of the guys who have been rather comfortable being in front of all of the excitement tonight. And keep an eye on that battle around 4th or 5th position to see if maybe there is a changing of the guard. But we're going to go back green. Cucker waited a long time, and he got a shot to the back end by William Hale. Hit him in the back bumper, trying to get going. The fight is going to be for P2. 69 digging again, has a nose to turn 3.
Trying everything he can into turn number 3, not really getting too much out of it. Hale on the inside of Ouellette, gonna get a little bit squiggly out of the corner there. Yes, squiggly, Evan. That is the word choice I had. Now Ouellette's gonna have everything, or at least trying to get anything on Cucker going through, trying to get through. Now Peterson on the inside of Hale, trying to make quick work of him, but Peterson gonna slide up in line behind Hale. Movement all over the place, guys.
And I'm going to counter your point by saying the longer we go green, the more funner this is going to get, because yes, funner's a word. And a 23 vision to Christian Peterson, trying to get up on the inside of the 62. Highest he's been all night, plus 15 spots. Can he go 16 to the inside of the 62 of Hale? The inside, despite the fact that it's the faster line, is very difficult to both drive down to the inside of somebody hard enough into the corner to get that positioning, and then to also get the good enough run off of the corner to stay side by side. And that's what Peterson's working on at the moment. He's there, but he's not there. Just barely with a nose to the inside. Hasn't really been able to make it side by side.
And on top of all of that, you have to make sure that you avoid the pit wall too on corner exit, which is a lot easier said than done here. So Peterson will slide back behind Hale for a little bit as they start running down the 81 of John Ouellette. That, I think we also need to note that both Hale and Peterson have been quicker than Ouellette since we dropped the green flag on this last restart. So that could become a 3-car battle really quickly. And now it's spaced itself out nicely back through this field. I saw a few drivers get sideways, and that kind of checked everybody up. And now we don't really have a side-by-side battle in the field till you get back to, I think, Will Dravicki and Jody Green, and that's way in the back of the field, back towards 13, 14, 15, near the cars on the tail end of the lead lap.
And starting to see that separation that we've been waiting for just a little bit. Still nice and tightly packed together. 4 cars within a second of each other up at the front of the field. Peterson last time by only 9/10 off of the top spot. I think you're going to have to keep an eye, though, on Ouellette and Hale, because these two have been more or less side by side on the restarts. I know that Ouellette's been outside of the front row and Will Hale rather has been inside of row number 2, but off of these restarts, Cucker gets out in front. It's these two leaning on each other. It hasn't gotten physical yet, but I can tell you from experience that if you're going to be side by side with somebody for so many times, you eventually are going to get frustrated with them. Right now, it's not bad, and Ouellette, his sets, I think, are set on a Cucker up front. He's only 0.3 of a second back. The 62's about equidistance behind him, so he's in the middle of this sandwich up at the front of the field. I'm curious to see as this run goes on. Is Ouellette going to push the tires a little bit too much in order to catch Cucker, or is Cucker going to overdrive his car with the pressure from behind, because he hasn't had to deal with this yet tonight?
And you ask the golden question of how long it'll be before it gets aggressive. Well, if you look at the back bumper of the 62 of William Hale, you'll see he's no stranger to aggressive and getting physical. So I don't think William Hale will really wait too long around the 81, as you see him already closing to the back bumper of John Ouellette, and just behind him, that's Christian Peterson lurking in the distance. But right now, it's a lengthy 3-car battle for the lead, maybe 4 here in the next few laps if Christian Peterson can catch up. But William Hale so strong through the run, so strong as we hit the green flag.
Just kind of looking through if there's any other battles. Right now, fight for 9th position. Jeremy Adams has the spot. Scott Austin has been challenging him on occasion for the position. I don't think the PruittTeam.com entry has actually gone to the inside. He's just been there because the 89's running a higher line. So early in this race, the bottom was the only place to be, and as more rubber gets put down on the racetrack, the line's moving up and up a little bit.
Starting to see the expansion of the lane. It came in quicker in the late model feature for sure, but now, yes, I think you're seeing it. And even guys like Jeremy Adams, who have absolutely no left front toe, you see that tire just all bent out of shape, but he's found a way to make it work. He's got some speed in that 89 machine on that top side, and for the moment, he's been able to hold Scott Austin at bay.
And Austin's in a position, too, where having started this race up front, a little bit of damage, got cycled back and things, has a fast car, and it really doesn't look like the 05 has all that much damage, although oftentimes things can be deceiving like that. The car doesn't look that bad. Things underneath are torn up a lot more sometimes. The sheet metal damage is atrocious, and the car runs just fine, but I would have to think if he can get an opportunity to run, he's not a 10th place car, so he's trying to get around Adams, who, qualified substantially worse than him, and he's trying to make it work on the inside of the racetrack, and Adams is still running away up there, so the door's wide open if Austin wants to make a spot. Hasn't gone all in, though, and committed to make it a challenge.
He hasn't really gone all in, not really wanting to force the issue right now. You see him lurking on that inside line, trying to get by Adams, and I think Devin Morgan is kind of hindering the run of Jeremy Adams right now, so maybe we'll see this 2-car battle between Adams and Austin turn into a 3-car battle between Morgan, Adams, and Austin. We'll just have to see as the laps go on. Up at the front, though, not really too much changing. Ouellette getting to the back bumper of Matt Cucker, but not really able to do anything with the run. Meanwhile, William Hale's fallen off considerably, about a few tenths from the lead battle, so he's slowly falling back into the clutches of Christian Peterson.
Just a couple of laps to go across the halfway point in tonight's Super Late Model feature. We'll take this opportunity to look at our iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing, the leading online racing simulation developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service. iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the globe. And in the fast-paced world of esports, iRacing is your one-stop shop for all things online racing, with officially sanctioned series by the likes of NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, World of Outlaws, soon to be Global Rallycross, and more. And to take a look top to bottom, Matt Cucker is in control as they run, but not comfortably. John Ouellette, step for step, right there, a tenth of a second off in P2. William Hale runs in third. He's dropped out of this battle. Now he's a second off of the race lead. Christian Peterson still at a race high P4, 2 seconds off, with Jacob Porter highest mover tonight from 22nd to P5 to round out the top 5 runners. Kyle Young is right now in the number 6 position with Colby Vance in 7th. They're going to swap things out. Vance to P6, Young back to P7. Devin Morgan runs at 8th spot. Scott Austin is 9th, and Jeremy Adams is 10th.
11th is where you'll find the 00 of Kyle Barnes at the moment. 12th is the 42 of DJ Beverly. Last car in the lead lap, and 13th is the 30 car of Will Dravicki. Tommy Ryan is the first car 1 lap down. He sits in 14th at the moment. Running 15th is the 7 of Kyle Loverall. Reese Noble's 2 laps down, and last car running out on track in 16th. Jody Green out of this now in the 17th position. Richard Reagan in the 40 car 18th. Robbie Bundon 19th. John Lyday 20th. Tanner Cook, Jeremy Watkins, and Mike Iannarelli round out the scoring as they stand for this 23 car field.
Let's look top to bottom at your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, you can visit iRacing.com to sign up today. For a limited time, if you go to iRacing.com/World of Outlaws, you can take advantage of some exclusive promo codes. Get yourself a 1-year iRacing membership for over 50% off the sticker price, or you can go with just a 3-month membership if you want to give it a try for just less than $5. There's no excuse not to go for it. Again, it's iRacing.com/World of Outlaws. Those options are valid on new iRacing memberships only and will expire at the end of 2017. 5 to go this time by, guys. Not in the race, but on this run. Still inside of the window. We're at X amount of consecutive laps, so it will bring us to a competition yellow. And if we get to lap number 93, we will see that caution flag as the battle for the race lead is on. I'm curious, kind of like the end of a stage break, Chris, does Ouellette go for it knowing that that yellow is approaching, or does he hang back knowing that the yellow is approaching?
Well, in my opinion, and I think Ouellette's thinking this too, you gotta go for it. Matt Cucker is so good on these restarts and so good on that bottom line on these restarts that you really just want to take it away from him. So Ouellette's got to do anything in his power to get by him. He's got to use these lap cars to his advantage, which they're not really helping him out, but now he's on the inside of Matt Cucker, so I think that answers your question, Evan. Getting a little bit loose out of the corner, not going to quite beat and make it stick, but going to try it again, get it even door to door, coming down the back straightaway into turn 3. Ouellette is going for it.
This time on, going to complete number 92, get an 81 to get it. That control car position for the race start could be huge. Ouellette on the inside. It could determine who wins this race, but Cucker too fast at a quarter number 2 will clear him back to 3 and 4. And they're going to come off of the quarter, and the caution flag is going to fly just a smidge. Over 30 laps to go. The 40-lap green flag run has triggered the competition yellow, and John Ouellette went for it, just couldn't get that little bit extra.
So it was tight. We know he's got speed, and I think we mentioned tire fall off a little bit over the course of this evening as well, and this is really where you're going to start seeing stuff, I think, and seeing who's done a better job of saving their tires than anybody else, because here is where it really matters, and this is where you're really going to start to see guys push extra hard to go get those final few positions, and if you're Cucker, to close out this season with a victory.
A couple of guys going to get waved by, obviously, but with John Ouellette having traced Cucker for so long and then almost on cue, Chris, as I posed the question, is he going to go for it with the comp yellow coming up, all of a sudden kind of turned up the wick a little bit. So that would suggest to me at Ouellette, despite the fact that he was running step for step with Matt Cucker, which, believe me, is something that not a lot of people have been able to do this season in this series, has that little bit extra that he was hanging back with. So does Cucker have that little bit extra too? If assuming that that is true, and the 89 does have a little bit more that he's been saving and not pushing that car, is Cucker doing the same? It's kind of a mind game because, again, saving tires at a racetrack like this, at a series like this where you can't come down and get fresh tires, is big. And we talked with Scott Eckrich after he won the late model stock race earlier tonight, and he attributed his success to being able to do that and the team for making that kind of a strategy call and kind of outline what their plan for the race was going to be. And this one is still up in the air. But I bet you under the yellow, both drivers are asking that same question about one another.
And for us up here in the booth, it's always good because we get to see both drivers and how they act lap by lap by lap. So in my opinion, Evan, to answer your question, I think they both have something they're holding back. Because, yes, we saw John Ouellette turn up the wick there and get to the inside fairly quickly on that 69. But Matt Cucker basically ramped it up even further, cleared him, and shut the door, coming to that comp yellow. So I think they both are holding back, and they both just figured out how strong each other are, knowing that they are already strong going into this race, just even that much stronger as the laps wind down. That could be something to think about as the laps wind down.
Pace car in. We are no longer going to have the competition caution rule in effect. Well, that's because this time by, there's only going to be 27 laps to go and a lot of contact on the front row. But Cucker does get going and clear for P1. Hale trying to get into second as Ouellette gives a shot to the back of the 69. The biggest thing for Cucker here is if Ouellette gets held up as long as possible, but we're spinning behind.
One car went around in the middle of 3 and 4, and I believe it was the 44 of Colby Vance. The question is, did he get help, or did he go around all by himself? And I'd say the answer to that actually might be option C, netcode, because he didn't really get into the side of Jacob Porter at all, but it's contact that the game thought was there and the sim thought was there that ended up sending the 44 around, and then everybody behind him didn't really have anywhere to go. Impressive that most everybody that was behind the 44 didn't really get that much damage. They all managed to kind of check up or slide to the side and get away with minimal damage in that. So credit to a lot of guys back there for making sure they didn't caught up in even more damage. But as it stands, 44 net codes his way around, and we're under yellow again.
And out of everybody, including the drivers who were obviously involved in the initial, I'll use air quotes, contact, and then as well the folks who were trying to get on by, the worst damage comes to the guy that was furthest behind it all. Tommy Ryan just got nicked as the 44 didn't have that car locked up or something. It was rolling down the hill, and it was Ryan who ends up pancaking the driver's side door into the outside wall. He'll be forced down to pit road, and I think kind of gets the worst of it. Not the first time tonight we've seen a bystander be the one who gets the worst of an accident, but a tough break for that 6 team there. After starting way back at 20th, has worked its way to the top 10, and all of that can now be erased.
And now that is all erased, we hit the reset button once again. Get ready to go green here for hopefully, or maybe the final time, some words exchanged back and forth between Cucker and Hale. Cucker not really liking how Hale was all over the back bumper coming to that start, said isn't the leader supposed to start the race. So we'll have to see how that turns out. Now Cucker still trying to keep Ouellette behind him. Ouellette's been very strong this race, guys, and I wouldn't say he's done yet.
Well, we saw that these guys were taking swings at each other. I was more concerned about the battle between Ouellette and Hale for second, and in a side-by-side fight for second, Ouellette still managed to get a shot at Matt Cucker's back bumper. So these guys are not going to roll over and to give anything for granted. It is still a 21 lap to go restart. Look at Christian Peterson right there in fourth. Car's got some damage. Can he maybe jump into this excitement in the closing minutes of the season? Here we go again with a 6-on to Cucker and a much better restart than last time. Not as much hesitation, and he's clear to turn number 1. Nice move by Ouellette to P2. Couldn't get close enough.
P3 is where the battle is, and I think Peterson might have grazed the wall ever so slightly on the back straight because William Hale was able to get underneath him and get around him for the third spot. So Peterson back to fourth, then Kyle Young sitting in the fifth spot at the moment, and a lot of cars almost sideways on the back straight there. They managed to get everybody back up ahead of the pit wall and up to the top side of that in time. That could have been really, really disastrous. Couldn't quite tell who was in the mix up there, but as it stands, Cucker is there, but Ouellette is starting to press again. You get the feeling that if he gets a long green flag run here to end it, he might have something, but he just needs a few laps to build up the tire pressure underneath that 81 machine to get a good go at him.
Battle for the race lead continues on, though. Here comes John Ouellette to the inside at lap number 108, and he's going to be able to make it stick. The challenge has been driving to the inside and staying on the inside, and he's there.
He's there, and we're seeing Cucker ramp it up a little bit too. He's able to power back on the outside, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough here, Evan. As Ouellette's almost clear of him. This is going to just draw in that 62 and 23 of Hale and Peterson. Now, Ouellette finally clears some contact between the 69 and the 81, drifting through.
Oh, what a save!
What a save! But William Hale coming to capitalize. William Hale will take the lead for maybe not. Ouellette's still hanging on sideways. Hale to the lead.
Ouellette had a fantastic save, and it is not going to be enough to keep him in a race lead. And third place runner William Hale is going to assume the race lead late in this one, looking to become a first-time super late model winner in the Cars eSport Tour. We saw a first-time winner earlier tonight in late model stocks. Can we go 2 for 2?
Could be really, really impressive, but there are some gentlemen behind him who would still like to say something about that. Let's manage to gather it up and has it going straight, and he's starting to run down the 62. Meanwhile, Cucker and Peterson are racing each other again. How many times have we said that this season? Right now it's a battle for third. Cucker's up top, Peterson on the inside trying to make something happen.
The Peterson back in the pack obviously wants to be able to get the Cucker. Oh, how the wheels have fallen off for the 69 machine. So maybe he had been giving it everything he had, and Ouellette had that little bit extra. But the battle for the race lead is not over with. Cucker out of the picture, about 0.6 of a second off of the back bumper of John Ouellette. But the 81 is still there. 10 laps to go as of that time by. He has to, if he's going to make a move, he can't let Hale get any further away. 62 with the bobble. Here he comes.
Yeah, getting ready to take 9 laps to go here, Evan. If Ouellette wants to do anything, it has to be now, because we know how tricky it is to pass at South Boston. You can get there, you can make it stick, but if the driver on the the outside is good at what he does, he'll be able to pinch you and hold that run. So Ouellette's gonna have to use the bumper, and we see him doing it all over the back bumper of that 62 of William Hale, trying everything he can to upset that car just a little bit to maybe get the edge as the laps wind down here.
Lap 118, and a caution flag will fly. And you can look at this in 2 ways, good or bad, because it'll give us at least one more restart, but the yellow flag is out once more late in this race. Issues on a racetrack slow things down.
Christian Peterson is the man that goes around, and I'm not necessarily certain that there's anyone to blame here, because Matt Cucker bounced off the wall coming out of turn 2, and I don't think Peterson expected it, because Cucker kind of came back down off the rebound from the wall and came down into Peterson, and then Peterson was just trying to hang on to it and keep it into one piece. And to his credit, he didn't take out anybody else and only got a little bit of left front damage, so it wasn't terrible, but just looked like one of those racing incidents from up above that will send Peterson a little bit further back in the field. He had the buffer room coming into the night with the points gap that he had to have a finish like this, but it opens up the door for William Hale and John Ouellette to probably go race mano a mano for their first victories of the 2017 season right here at the end of the Cars eSport Tour for 2017.
When John Ouellette was leading this race for that brief moment, but he got around the number 69 machine and then had some help. He has no reason to be mad at William Hale. Hale wasn't the driver who got into him. That was Cucker. So if there is a fight for second, it might get a little bit tight. But the 81's mad. And I think you're going to get a restart inside of 5 to go. It might be 2 laps to go when the lights go out on top of the pace car. We'll know for certain. But Chris, if the closest I think he's going to be, if he wants to go for the bumper, is to turn 1 on the restart. If you don't get to him then, and you fall back a couple of car lengths, you're not going to get to him at all. So if Ouellette sees that as his only realistic chance, turn one's going to be fun. If he decides to do it the more civil way and wait and try to set him up in turns 3 and 4, he might not be able to get there. So that's a judgment call that the 81 is currently weighing in his mind.
And I think you summed it up perfectly there, Evan. This restart has got to be perfect for Hale and for Ouellette. So in a perfect world, we're going to see them side by side, both going down into turn 1. But I don't know if Ouellette really wants that, so we might see him back off a little bit, try to maybe cross him over, give him a bump or something. But he's got to do something to get that 62 machine of William Hale off that yellow line. So we might have to see that bumper come into fashion as they line him up, getting ready to go green for the final time.
Pace car going to drop down and in. That field is going to be in the hands of the number 62 of William Hale, looking to see if he can get a checkered flag with 2 to go from South Boston Speedway, and it's a good jump. He's clear.
Hale goes to the front by a little bit, and then he gets contact from behind. He gets moved out of the way. There goes Ouellette to the front, and then they all almost right behind him. And
there goes Ouellette.
They make contact again.
Caution flag is going to fly. It all falls apart. And at the end of the day, I think the 69 of Matt Cucker is going to be scored in the race lead once more. They're both going to come to the back of the pace car here, and in a strange twist of events, on a 2-lap to go restart, the 81 went for the bump and run. The 81 got bumped and run again, and Matt Cucker, pending a post-race review, at least I can tell you this, he's going to come across the start-finish line first and take the checkered flag in the SLM feature.
And the 62 is fuming, guys. I saw him make that little swipe to the left. I don't know if anybody caught it coming down the back straightaway, but he was really, really, really upset there. Cucker will not get the win. Official result, William Hale comes home with the win, Evan. Shocking.
And again, this one is going to be looked at, but I think it may end up with William Hale in victory lane. That's going to be the call. So William Hale is in control, and he's really the only one who didn't hit anybody in this. He got hit by Ouellette. Ouellette got hit by Cucker, and William Hale, the innocent victim who came across the start-finish line in second position, is going to get the checkered flag again unofficially, but race control saying the 62 to victory lane, and the 62 is the one that's doing the celebrating.
And a huge, huge moment for William Hale, too. Hadn't won all season, hadn't run a lot of the season, but he comes into South Boston, and to his credit, he was running up in the top 3 pretty much all night long, and with the way this race played out, it very much had the feel of if you could be there at the end and find a way to keep yourself in the mix, you had a shot, and it was just a matter of whether or not you took advantage of the shot that you gave yourself. Hale did. That's why now he's headed to victory lane.
He's taken the Polish victory lap. We'll have an opportunity to chat with him momentarily. First, as always, we'll take a look top to bottom at your LSRTV full race results tonight for the South Boston Speedway in a super late model division. Matt Cucker across the line first, but the win is going to go to William Hale. Cannot confirm if Cucker is going to be given a second place finish or if he will end up with an EOL to the end of the longest line, but just based on the stats that are going to be on your screen, again, all of this is unofficial. All I can tell you is Hale's the winner. Everybody's probably going to bump up one, but Kyle Barnes, third position. Scott Austin comes home at fourth with DJ Beverly in fifth. Devin Morgan does a good job of recovering from a rough start tonight, comes home right there in the number 6 position with Colby Vance in 7th, Kyle Young at 8th, Tommy Ryan 9th, and Christian Peterson P10.
Jeremy Adams will come home in the 11th position. John Ouellette is officially scored 12th after all of the madness. Will Dravicki, 1 lap down in 13th on the evening. 3 laps down was the 7 of Kyle Leveralt. Reese Nobles finishes 15th tonight. 16th is the 3-car Jacob Porter. Jody Green finishes in the 17th spot. 18th belongs to the 40 of Richard Reagan. Robbie Bunden comes home in the final race with 2017 19th and 20th. That's where you'll find John Lyday.
'21st goes to Inner Cook. Jeremy Watkins gonna finish 22nd, and rounding out 23rd, that's Mike Iannarelli.
That's a look top to the bottom at your full race results for the Super Late Model feature. The driver in front again, we still have to preface unofficially, but I don't see any reason why it would not go to the driver. The 62, William Hale, is down in Gatorade victory lane, where James Pike has caught up with him.
And William Hale gets his first victory of the season in the Cars eSport Tour Super Late Models division in the last race of the year. And I think we just have to start with the obvious. Can you take us through what happened on that final restart and what you saw from your perspective?
Went to restart, hit the restart line, got through the gears really good. We had a really clean restart, and went down and wanted turn 1 and 2, and I guess the 81 lost brakes right there. Brakes got a little hot or something, and he didn't puff them back up for the restart or something. He got into us a little bit there and got us a little loose, and we got in his right rear at a 2, and I wasn't expecting anything. I was expecting top 3 at that point, just trying to nurse it back home. I didn't know how hard it was or anything. And 69 and 81 got tangled up in 3 and 4 right there, and just able to escape them. That's twice we escaped them tonight, them racing together. So,
but I think, to be fair, even through all that madness, you had found your way up to the top, 5, 4, 3, up until that sort of last 20 laps where you had the lead there. You'd been up there pretty much all night. So was that a case of you finding speed in the middle of the race and finding something that hadn't necessarily clicked in practice and in qualifying, or did the setup actually really just feel solid underneath you all night long, and you came in here figuring that you really could do something a little bit more than even what you might have just indicated?
The qualifying, we qualified P2. The invert was a 10 tonight. So qualifying was really well. We had a really good car off the trailer this weekend. And, I started the tire pressures really low. We started them really low, and they just needed time to build up over the course of the run. And we were mainly saving tires. It's a long race, rough track, rough surface. It's a long, grueling race, really, 125 laps around here. You're constantly working. And, we were just trying to save right there right when we got up to third. I pushed a little bit early, kind of wore out the rear tire a little bit, and you can't thank these guys enough. These War Sox guys, Hell Motorsports crew, Hankey Race Cars. These guys are just unbelievable at setting up these race cars. LSRTV for name on the car this weekend. That's awesome. I can't thank these guys enough, really.
And you've been around here for a few of these races, haven't been with us for the whole season, but here in this first season of the Cars Tour on LSRTV, and just from the driver's perspective, talk about what you've seen over the course of this year and what kind of fun you've had racing in something in a properly, dedicated late model short track series on the sim.
This is actually our first race. We just came in for the finale I haven't had really time to do much iRacing, but for a virtual series, this Cars Tour sponsored event, this has been really cool. I mean, this is really awesome put together. LSRTV doing a great job as always. It's really cool to have an actual Cars Tour series, Super Late Model series. This was really well put together. Kyle Barnes did an excellent job with this. It's a really well put together series, and it's really fun. It didn't indicate that tonight, but that's Sobo for you. So.
And before we let you go, hear from Sobo just one more time. I know you talked to him a little bit, but go ahead and run through the sponsors and shout-outs and let everybody know who makes it happen for you in the 62 team.
LSRTV as always, the whole Hell Motorsports crew, Hankey Race Cars, War Shocks for, all the expertise under this car. Really couldn't do it without them. Hell Mechanical for all that they've done on this race car. These guys are really awesome, so appreciate all their help.
Well, congratulations to you, Mr. Hale, and hopefully we'll see you a little bit more here in 2018 with the Cars eSport Tour.
Definitely. I'll definitely be back next year.
So, there is your race winner tonight, the 62 of William Hale, and now I will turn to Chris Murdoch, who has caught up with the late model champion from our race earlier, and that is the number 69 of Matt Cucker.
joined by Cucker here. Before we get into all the questions and everything about this amazing night for Matt, I would like to send it over to Kyle Barnes just for a second to give some words to Matt Cucker.
Yeah, Cucker, just wanted to say thank you for running with us this season. You had a fantastic year in late model stock and in super late model. Vencer Racing and 6-man were definitely the class of the field each and every week. So it is my honor to present to you the 2017 Cars eSport Tour Late Model Stock Championship. Thank you for running with us this season, and can't wait to see what you do next year.
Yeah, thank you. It was a tough one, I'll tell you that much.
Right, and as we move on here just a little bit, Cucker, what an amazing night for Team Vencer, as Kyle said, and for you as a whole. You know, we postponed the interview to the end of the night, but we didn't really give you too much time to think with all the stuff that went on in that super late feature. You know, just how does it feel to be late model champion?
To be late model champion, it's a great feeling. I mean, all season long it was Vencer, we were up there, and CP kept me on my toes this last week, and then when he didn't qualify, I was like, yes, this is my chance. And that late model stock race, I was just points racing. I wasn't even going to push the car. I didn't want to push the car, and all night long in both cars I was super tight, and I wouldn't say it was a really good night. I mean, I feel bad. First off, I got to apologize to John. I let down that last restart there. I drove it in there a little bit too hot, was on the brakes, had the car turn, it just didn't want to turn and just slid up, so I'm sorry to him. That was definitely his race, and all my fault, so sorry again, John. But, I mean, it's late model stock all season long. It's been a blast to drive, I mean, with these guys, and we're always close and race side by side with all the tracks that Cars eSport Tour races on, so it's been a blast.
So, as you mentioned, you and CP always battling with each other, even 1-2 in the late model points and 1-2 in the super late points, both coming away with the championship. What does it mean for Team Vencer? You know, how does it feel to be that dominant in a series and be able to come in and give it your all and know that it's basically championships for the team here tonight?
Oh man, it means so much to us because we put in so much time throughout the whole year to be able to run this, and then to come out 1, 2, and 3 with Jeremy getting third in points. So it's a blast, and I mean, without Jeremy on the team, we wouldn't be here. We probably wouldn't be racing this league. So definitely got to thank Jeremy to begin with. He's the one who told me I should sign up for this league, and it'd be a lot of fun. So I did, and here we are sitting a year and a half later and sitting as champion.
And you know, gotta keep up the tradition. Before we move on to the sponsors, shout outs, the hardest question of the night, Cucker, what's your favorite sandwich?
Oh man, I honestly have no clue. But I gotta thank Team Vencer. I analyze Globalcom. I gotta thank Kyle Barnes for putting on this show. I mean, putting on this whole thing together with the Cars Tour in real life. It's got to be hard to do, and he puts it on and doesn't complain about it at all. So I gotta thank him for that, and I definitely gotta thank you guys for putting a great stream every week that we race.
Come on, Cisco's not letting you go. Give us a sandwich, just a name. Cisco's not gonna let you go off the hook with this one.
Oh man, sandwich?
Sandwich.
I gotta say, probably salami and cheese and mustard. Probably my favorite sandwich.
All right, I can feel that. Anyway, Cucker, congratulations on the championship and a really good season. Hope to see you back next year.
Thank you.
And there you have it, guys. Salami is the sandwich of choice for Matt Cucker. Now gonna toss it back to Evan Pasoko, who's got Christian Peterson, your super late model champion.
And I will preface and say that I am all for the salami, but if I have to take one for the team and use mustard to become a late model stock champion, then maybe I will have to invest in that. But those are the words from your late model stock champion, and that one was decided tonight. This super late model championship really wasn't dependent on the results this evening, and to present the super late model championship tonight to Christian Peterson is once again Kyle Barnes.
Hey Christian, not much we can say about the Super Late Model Championship. You definitely came out swinging. I think you might have even missed a race there at the beginning, or something happened to you. So to go out with a full race ahead of everybody else, that's quite the accomplishment for you and your whole team there at Six Man Inc. So congrats on your championship. Thank you for running with us. You guys put on a fantastic show, and you were a great sport each and every week, even if something didn't go your way. So appreciate your support of Championship Esports Association, and can't wait to see what you do in the future.
Thank you, Kyle. I just got to thank you for putting everything on. Basically, what you put together with the cars tour is pretty spectacular, actually, and had a lot of fun in this. I think it was 12 weeks. It seems a lot longer than that, but I know it was spread out a little bit. But a lot of fun running both cars and trying to catch up on that late model stock championship and putting a whooping on it in this super late. So it was a lot of fun.
I just want to describe the context of that whooping. 8 checkered flags over the course of the season. William Hale got one tonight, and I think we also saw earlier on this season Jeremy get a win in addition. He got 2 in addition to the one that Matt Cucker had gotten to kick off the season. So safe to say that you like this super late model, Christian. We've had an ample opportunity to talk with you over the course of the season for how well you guys have run, and despite the fact that you guys do come home a race win ahead, and you guys were the dominant car, it didn't necessarily, I think, feel at times, and I'm curious what your perspective was from behind the wheel, that you were that far in front. I kept waiting for somebody to get that little bit extra, because oftentimes, Matt's just 1 or 2 spots behind you, and it never came, so that 31-point gap into tonight came basically 3 points at a time, and that's not a lot, but that consistency to be able to be, when it mattered the most, that little bit better, turns into a dominating performance on the stat sheet.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you're right. Every week in the Super, I never really felt like I was that much faster than anybody else, except for Martinsville. Martinsville, I felt really good, and that's really strange. But everywhere else, it felt like I was just really good, and I could save my tires, and I could be there at the end when it mattered. But yeah, I mean, it's just about putting together consistency. I know 8 wins is a lot compared to what everybody else got, but the races I didn't run, I think I still finished pretty decent, I think I did miss one in the beginning, but other than that, I think I finished pretty consistent other than tonight. Tonight was a struggle, but yeah, just looking forward to going to the off season and relaxing. It's been fun, and put a lot of hard work into the setups, and looking forward to whatever we do next season.
And I believe the stat is true. Don't quote me on it, but I believe, just based on the numbers that I have in front of me, that tonight is actually your only finish outside of the top 5 of those that you competed in for points in these cars. Still get a top 10, so you keep that perfect. But those are, when you say you're consistent, you're not kidding. I know that obviously we've seen success from you many a time in many different disciplines here on LSRTV and iRacing Live. What point in the season did you start to think that, okay, I have a legitimate shot at this? Again, obviously, race 1, that's the objective, and you're not going to do something unless you do have that degree of confidence. But at what point in the year did you start to kind of look at your performance, look at the points, and kind of really get the sense that this thing could happen?
I'd say probably like week 4 or 5, or after Thompson, really. I think that was like my 2nd win of the season, and I think I got the points lead there, or maybe a race before that, but after I got the 2nd win of the season was really when I felt confident, because I knew if I could win once, and if I could win 2 in a row, then I could probably keep doing that, because it's been that way in the past. So just looking for consistency, and that's what I did. So I'm a little proud of myself, and hats off to William there for the win. He had a really fast car, and the end of the race there was crazy, so he did a good job.
And I have to imagine not only is winning any sort of a championship on the Sim Fund, but to be able to do it with the guys at the Championship Esports Association under the Cars Tour banner has to be an extra little bit of a kick for you.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, and especially since I won it last season too. I know I didn't get into victory lane, and there's a lot bigger car count, but last season I think I was just as consistent, like top 5s, top 10s. So that's where it pays off, is consistency.
We've picked your brain enough, so we will let you take off. But as tradition, I don't make the rules. I don't know why this is a thing, but we always must ask the series champion what your favorite sandwich is.
Probably a turkey club.
I want to add another one here because this is a question I have. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
I don't think so. No.
Okay,
No.
I'll agree with you on that one, and we'll let you get out of here. One more time, the sponsors and the shout-outs, Christian. Who makes it happen for you?
Just everybody at Vincier, 6-man. Everybody who shows up. We had a lot of cars show up the last couple weeks, try to take that bounty away, and that happened. So, hats off to those guys. They did a good job in the late model stock race. So that was a lot of fun. Everybody at LSRTV and the Championship eSports Association are putting it on, and just everybody out there watching.
He's your 2017 Cars eSport Tour Super Late Model Tour champion, Christian Peterson. Tonight, South Boston Speedway officially getting the hardware, Christian, as it has been all season. Is it a pleasure chatting with you? Congratulations on the championship. Congratulations on the success. And I'm sure we will run into you at Victory Lane very shortly down the road at some point. We'll see you then.
Sounds good. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Evan.
That is Christian Peterson, who is your champion. He gets the job done. Tonight, again, didn't really matter. It was just kind of hanging out in this one, and I think got the job done. Did what he had to do, but for up until tonight, those 11 weeks for the 23 machine, really, really good, top to bottom, Pike. I think that, again, we talked about how competitive the late model stocks. And again, these super late model races weren't not competitive. To get to 31 points over the course of 11 races, again, you're only talking about 2-3 points per. But when it came to the end, when it came to executing on one final restart, when it came to getting up to the pack from an EOL penalty and starting at the back, it was that 23 machine who had that little bit extra, and that little bit extra is the difference between a championship and the runner-up.
But then again, to be fair, that was the case with a lot of the races, especially in the super late models this year, that even though he got challenges on a consistent basis, week in and week out, basically from May all the way to the end of August, Christian Peterson had the answer every single time. And that's what won him this championship. And I think it's all the more impressive when you look at the range of tracks that we've been through over the course of this 2017 Cars eSport Tour season. Pair of tracks down in Florida, New Smyrna and Five Flags, the Bull Ring at Las Vegas, Thompson, Bristol, Martinsville, even a Legends Oval at Kentucky, which is completely different to anything that you see on the sim and nothing that you really could prepare for up until that race. That's the kind of craziness that Peterson's gone through, and that's the sort of stuff that he's done. And I think we have to throw in Concord there twice, too, since that's a unique short track in and of itself, and he got it done there as well. So, I'm not surprised at the end of the day why Christian Peterson's your SLM champion, and Matt Cucker, too, who's basically the same thing on the late model stock side, and that's why Cucker's your champion there.
And I believe, Kyle, you still got us?
Yep, still got you.
Jump up here and we'll chat with you as well, because it's been it's been a fun season, top to bottom, all kinds of different racetracks. This thing started way back in April at the New Smyrna Speedway, and it comes to a conclusion here tonight with Sobo, and we will have ample opportunity over the coming weeks and the coming months to talk more about the Championship Esports Association and, of course, the Myrtle Beach Simulation Series. But it's been fun for us to be a part for the first time of this Cars eSport Tour, and as the person behind the scenes who works all the magic and makes everything happen, just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk to the people out there, let them know if they want to get involved, how they do that as well. I know that every single time the drivers are down, they're thanking you and they're thanking your team. Wanted to give you a chance as well to say hi and thanks to some folks.
Yeah, most definitely. First of all, we got to thank the Cars Tour for coming on board and supporting us. They sanctioned this whole deal and work with us every step of the way. Tony Stevens, Chris Regal, all the guys at the Cars Tour who help us put on a great show each and every week, advertise with us whenever they can. It's just absolutely awesome to have their support and their backing. Also, got to thank LSRTV. You guys do great as a broadcast team. Absolutely awesome to work with. They're every step of the way if we need something, and always there to lend a hand when possible. And of course, got to thank the drivers. Without them, this whole deal wouldn't be possible. Vincier Racing 6-man definitely dominated this season. However, everybody mid-pack towards the back, they put on one hell of a show each and every week themselves. So can't thank them enough. I can say, though, we did talk to Tony a couple weeks ago, and we will be back next year for a 2018 Cars eSport Tour season. We'll follow the real-life schedule as much as possible, and we're coming back with some different things with the late models and super late models. So looking forward to that. If you want to check us out, you can check us out at championshipesports.com, or you can go to Championship Esports Association on Facebook. We'll post all the information on the upcoming 2018 season here within the coming weeks.
And a note from us at our team, again, thanks for letting us be a part of it. Thanks for putting on good stuff on the racetrack. And, of course, we'll be back with the Myrtle Beach Simulation Series in just a week's time. But looking forward to what the Cars eSport Tour has to bring down the line. Thanks for lending your time as well, chatting with us here, Leighton. I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
So that's Kyle Barnes, who makes everything happen at the Championship Esports Association, sanctioning body of this Cars Esport Tour. And Chris, just like that, the Cars Esport Tour for 2017 has come and gone. We've seen a lot of bent sheet metal, a lot of checkered flags, and a lot of excitement, and no doubt that will continue as the series gets set to return, as we just heard, in 2018. But that wraps things up on the year with a very exciting evening, I think, from Sobo, which, on a personal note, one of my favorite short tracks just because of how physical of a place it is.
And I'm still reeling from the people that think hot dogs are a sandwich. But
I was making sure that he did not think a hot dog was a sandwich. I'm not a psychopath. I was making sure it was a background check. He passed.
A background check. But in all seriousness, I get to experience a little bit of it on the Wednesday Myrtle Beach Simulation Series. But for the one and done race I did tonight, exceptional racing. Two guys that deserve the championship, in Matt Cucker and Christian Peterson. And you guys know the spiel I give it every Wednesday on Kyle Barnes and how well he runs his leagues. He does a phenomenal job, so I won't bore you guys with that one. Excited for the 2018 season. Hopefully I can get around to a few more of these when I'm needed. It's just left me in shock. Really, really good racing all night long.
And these are, you talk about some of the dominance. These are some of the best guys on the sim at this kind of a deal. And you heard Kyle talk about, hey, it's an open invite. If you think that you can give it to these guys, and if you're sitting here looking, how are these guys getting all these wins? Open invite. Come on out. 2018 seems like a long time away at the moment, but I'm sure that, Pike will be back with this Cars eSport Tour before we know it.
We're going to blink and it'll be next year before you know it. And I have a feeling it won't be until April like it was this year. And I think the most interesting thing for me, if we're looking at storylines coming into 2018, is now that we've seen this run for a season, and I think people know what the Cars eSport Tour is about, what the Championship Esports Association is about, who comes after the titles that Cucker and Peterson have won tonight, and who can give them a challenge, because I think we saw it a little bit at Martinsville tonight too, that there are people out there besides them that can run these late models and super late models really, really well. They just need to come in and really dedicate themselves to it, need the platform that's worth dedicating themselves to. So that, I think, is one thing. The other thing is that Mr. Barnes, I think, is going to have a bit of juggling to do with the schedule, because you look at the 2018 real-life Cars Tour schedule, and you look at some of the new tracks for next year. You've got the Fairgrounds in Nashville, Tennessee, Wake County Speedway in North Carolina, just south of Raleigh is on there, and Ace Speedway returns, I believe, for the first time in the Cars Tour era, and Carteret County Speedway, Kingsport Speedway are also on there too. So I have a feeling we may see some new tracks in the 2018 schedule, and I will be very curious to see where literally and figuratively the Cars eSport Tour heads next. But looking forward to it all the same.
And if you want to keep up with the Championship Esports action, you're not going to have to wait until the opening months of 2018, because the Myrtle Beach Simulation Series is right back here on LSRTV and iRacing Live 1 week's time on Wednesday the 25th. And again, that one is going to continue for some time, so you will have ample opportunity to get your short track racing fix here with LSRTV and CEA. Also, though, doesn't mean that we're done for this week either. We have plenty of coverage coming up in the next couple of days, including some more short track action right here on LSRTV and streaming on iRacing.com/live. Tomorrow night, we continue into the championship of the Upstate Racing League on Friday. The Super Speedway Cup Series is back, and the United Sim Racing, the BNC Lawn and Landscaping Truck Series as well is returning on this Saturday. And on a slightly more personal note, if you will, for that Saturday event, I highly encourage you to come out and watch that one. The league and title sponsor BNC are going to donate $2 to the Vegas Strong Victims Fund for every lap run under green. So I highly encourage you to come out and check that one out at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, 7 o'clock at the East Coast. And again, we have much more than that. So if you want to make sure you don't miss anything, the best way to find our upcoming broadcast schedule is to log on to our website at www.livesimracing.com, but also keep up to date with us on social media. On Twitter, that's at LSRTV, and on Facebook, it's at facebook.com/LSRTV official. Even though it's the end of the season, as always, I will say until next time, on behalf of the entire team and Live Sim Racing LLC, for the folks who make it behind the scenes, DJ Lyon, Laura Lawson, everybody who's topside night in and night out on all our broadcasts, everybody who has helped out with this series all season, and of course, for the team tonight. For myself, Evan Pasoko, for James Pike, Chris Murdoch, and our producer, Cisco Scaramuza, I want to thank you for joining us tonight and all season long. And congratulate our champions, late model stock champion Matt Cucker and super late model champion Christian Peterson. Head off tonight with the cash and the hardware. Will they defend in 2018? Only time will tell. Until then, though, on behalf of everybody here at LSRTV, your home for sim racing, we wish you the best, and we'll see you then.